Alpecin, that's Cum de Court. And everybody was delighted with the win yesterday for Simon Geschke. Barely a dry eye in the house. Wasn't it just a wonderful interview afterwards when he broke down, speaking of the dream that he'd held for 15 years and it had been fulfilled. He was in all the action again yesterday, Peter Sagan. He's got a 104-point advantage in the race for that green jersey. He's right on target to win it for the 4th year in succession in just his 4th appearance at the Tour. When Alberto Contador crashed on the final descent yesterday, it was Peter Sagan who swapped bikes with him. He quickly swapped bikes. Contador rode that to the bottom of the final climb. And then as they made their way up Prelude, Contador swapped bikes again, back onto his normal bike, to then try and limit his losses to the other contenders for a spot inside the top 5. He conceded 2 important minutes yesterday, Alberto Contador. Things just haven't gone right for him. But he's still holding on to 5th place overall. A little over 2.5 minutes behind 3rd place and a spot on the podium in Paris. A stunning backdrop today. Mother Nature is really turning it on. As we return to the chase with Trek Factory Racing and Giant Alpecin. This is at the back of the race where it really is a major battle just to survive today. There was a fantastic tweet from Mark Cavendish this morning. And when you get a chance to take a look at the race profile with the official handbook, the King of the Mountain spots are all denoted with red dots, and they'll have the category within them, whether it be a category 4, 3, 2 or a 1 or a HC. And Mark Cavendish said that he's sick of seeing red dots. He feels like he's got the chicken pox. It's an illness that's going to take a few days to get over because there's lots of climbs to scale before he gets to head into Paris and see if he can do it again on the Champs-Élysées. Irizar, Devolder, chasing for Trek Factory Racing. A team that's been relatively quiet. Peter Sagan doing the job. Well, didn't it look just a moment ago as if he was down the back under a little bit of pressure as they crest the top of the Col de Marisol? It was anything but. Peter Sagan has just gone and collected around about 3 kilograms worth of water bottles to then tow them back to the front of the race and dish them out to Alberto Contador, Rafael Majka and the other members of Tinkoff Saxo who are still in that peloton with the yellow jersey off road. Into the breakaway. And this is an incredibly strong breakaway. There is some genuine depth in this move. There are 29 riders in the breakaway. 10 of them have finished inside the top 10 in the Tour de France throughout their career. 14 of them have finished inside the top 10 in a Grand Tour in their career. So this is a strong move. 3 riders in the break for Cannondale Garmin. This is rider Hagedal now who goes through to the front. He's got the Irishman Dan Martin sitting just behind him. And yesterday's 2nd place finisher, Andrew Talansky, once again has squeezed himself into the break, in with a chance to win the stage. Nice to see the MTM Quebecer logo once again in the breakaway. Well, the Quebecer logo, the one that we can see in the yellow on the back of the jersey of Serge Paz. The rationale behind that logo is, with the hand up, is that Quebecer, with giving bikes to kids in South Africa, is a hand up. It's not a hand out, it's a hand up. The man with big gladiator tattoo on his back, which was done by Simple Syme in St Kilda in the suburbs of Melbourne. Whilst we've got a few Australians in the breakaway, Michael Rogers, Michael Matthews is in the move. So too Roald Dennis, the first yellow jersey wearer of this year's Tour de France. Some bad news just coming across race radio. Mark Renshaw has abandoned. It's not just bad news for those of you in Bathurst who are tuning in. It's bad news for Mark Cavendish. For Mark Cavendish to get his 2nd stage win of this year's Tour de France, Mark Renshaw would have been playing a key role on that final stage down the Champs-Élysées. Big story yesterday in terms of abandonments was certainly the American TJ Van Garderen, who up to that point was holding down 3rd position overall. Came down with a fever on the rest day, thought he'd be able to get through it. He said afterwards he couldn't look his teammates in the eye. There's no need for that, TJ. He fought bravely. Keep in mind that that's the first time TJ Van Garderen has ever abandoned a Grand Tour. And he's twice finished in 5th place in the Tour de France. With complete self-interest, because I enjoy watching him race, I hope that he can recover quickly and maybe head to Spain and ride the Vuelta a España at the end of the season. And despite the disappointment for BMC Racing, it's still been a very good tour. They've won 3 stages, Rowan Dennis the opening day, they then won the team time trial, and Greg Van Avermaet beat Peter Sagan in the sprint finish to Rodez. Plus, they had a day in yellow with Rowan Dennis. The rider in the red colours there from BMC Racing, that is Damiano Caruso, in his first attempt at the Tour de France. The Italian's a good climber. He finished in 8th spot at this year's Giro d'Italia. Certainly one to watch from this breakaway group. Cyril Gauthier at the back, sitting just behind Thomas Voeckler. This is Dan Martin, who's had 2 second-place finishes so far this year. And Pierre Roland squeezing into the move as well for Europcar. This is Thomas de Gent in the red colours for Lotto Soudal. Michael Rogers is the man who sits behind him. Almost 10 years ago now, Michael Rogers finished in 9th position overall in the Tour, back in 2006. Serge Pauls, MTN Quebec, we've seen a lot of him. Rowan Dennis in the red colours for BMC. Ruben Platzer is also here from Lamprey, the man that won that dramatic stage into Gap. Here's Thibaut Pinot, number 21, the man who we saw crash yesterday on that treacherous descent. I asked the question, how are you? You saw the answer. What we do know with Thibaut Pinot is that given that he's not the best of descenders, certainly within the context of the speed that we see the world's best go down these frightening mountains at, Thibaut Pinot is surely going to have to attack on the Col de Glandon to get a head start before they make their way down. It's a fast descent, the Col de Glandon. Yesterday's win by Simon Geschke was the 5th German stage victory at this year's Tour de France, and only the 3rd ever in his professional career, with a childhood dream coming true. As he said yesterday, he didn't plan to cry on TV, but he won the hearts of many in doing so. If there was no let's say the right thing to keep the sponsors and the team happy, he just let it all hang out, and it was a joyous moment. Number 212, Steve Cummings, the man who created history for MTN Quebec when he won that stage to Monde. Jan Bakelants in the break here for AG Tour Le Mondial. He's not the only one. He's got Christophe Riblon and Romain Bardet with him. 3 riders in the move for Cannondale Garmin. Talansky, you can see him just chewing away, sitting in front of Michael Rogers. The shorter of the 2 riders in the green colours. He came to a grinding halt when he went across the line yesterday. Just 32 seconds behind that elusive stage victory. And Talansky, one of the 10 riders in this breakaway group who have finished inside the top 10 throughout their career in the Tour de France. Talansky from Miami, better known as the Pitbull. He finished in 10th position in 2013 when Chris Froome won the Tour for the first time. Is this going to be the Tour for the second time? Onto the Col de la Morte, 3 kilometres to climb. Translates, worryingly, as the Hill of the Dead, or the Climb of the Dead. Movistar in the breakaway with 2 riders today. That was Jonathan Castro-Vejo, former Spanish individual time trial champion, who you saw at the back of the group. Bob Jungels now coming through to the front. He's the Luxembourg national champion, and they were full of praise for him yesterday on the squad. He did an enormous job for Bauke Mollema, the Dutchman, trying to protect his spot inside the top 10. Riblon in the break. Knows how to read a bike race, Riblon. He's been a silver medalist at the World Championships in the points race. He's won a stage mountaintop finish in the Pyrenees, and he's won a mountaintop finish to none other than Alpe d'Huez. There's Pierre Roland in the green colours. Number 12, Romain Bardet, 6th last year. He was hoping for a top 5 finish this year. Jacob Fulsang, all smiles, having a conversation by the looks of it with Bob Jungels. Bardet, 11th. As you can see, 16 minutes and 4 seconds behind the race leader, but he's 3 minutes and 4 seconds behind a top 10 finish, and to have bragging rights of being the first Frenchman. This is Pierre Roland, 14th spot overall. He's been a top 10 finisher. He's won the white jersey as the best young rider. He's also been a multiple stage winner, and he has vowed to fight on every single day to try and collect the stage in 2015. Such a strong leading group. We saw a big group yesterday and a big sacrifice made by Richie Porte. Richie, in the diary that he's writing for Fairfax News in Australia, he said it was a strange feeling waiting on the side of the road for the Froome group to come through. But despite the fact he thought he might have been in with a chance to win the stage, that's the job, and that's part of being a mate as well with Chris Froome, and he was happy to do so. Unfortunately for Richie Porte, he was actually caught behind Alberto Contador when Contador crashed and then went down and looked to try and get across to help him, but wasn't there on that final climb. So with 103.9 kilometres to go, let's head across to Phil and Paul.
As we look into the faces here of the breakaway at the moment, nobody can explain to me, least of all Paul Sherman, as to why the Trek riders are driving the peloton at the front when they have two pretty good riders in that breakaway.
Yeah, well, thanks for that, Phil. Personally, I can't figure it out at all, unless they are just trying to protect the position of Bauke Mollema in the overall standings, but that's ninth, and that's not something really I would have expected them to try and defend on a mountain stage. They could really have let the breakaway have the possibility, because they've got a couple of very good riders in the breakaway. Bob Jungels, of course, being one of them. As we get that chance here to look at the breakaway, 29 riders once again getting clear, and only 5 riders missing out. Not a surprise, Phil, for Team Sky not to have a man in this breakaway group, because they've got a lot of work to do over the next couple of days. Britannia and Cofidis, well, they're probably getting a little bit tired. Lotto Jumbo seem to miss the breakaway every day, but they have also got a man high in the overall standings, Robert Hessing, who's climbed up to 6th place overall, and the other team to miss out, Ethics Quickstep, the team of Mark Cavendish. Yesterday they lost the world champion Kwiatkowski, and today, just a few moments ago, they lost the Australian Mark Renshaw.
Well, just seeing the champion of Germany, the youngsters slipping off the back there as well. Back and I'll tell you what, there's quite a few riders going off here, and the gap is coming down. It's 3:51 now, so the tempo at the front is having an effect. Tyler Farrer here, number 213, and Steve Cummins, the winner at Monda, 212.
Yes, well, in fact, I spoke to Sean Yates, the team manager of Tinkoff Saxo, about the way that Peter Sagan was riding, and he said he'd actually asked him on a couple of days to take a little bit of a day off, but he said no, that's his temperament. He wants to be in the breakaway, and he found a possibility of getting into a move like that, and so he in fact pretty much now looks like he's pretty much wound up the sprint competition. He's got now more than 104 points advantage over Andre Greipel in 2nd position, but we still got a big sprint on the final day, and that's why the sprinters are now just trying to survive over these next 3 difficult days in the Alps. The sprinters really don't have very much of a chance at all. We go into the high spots of the mountains. 2 mountain top finishes. Today, by the way, of the 4 stages in the mountains, today is the only alpine stage which doesn't actually finish at the top of a mountain. Oh, and Peter Sagan just jumping around the rider in front of him there. I think he certainly is having a day off. The rider slipping away there was Sébastien Chavanel. Sébastien Chavanel, by the way, is at last overall in the standings. He was a very good sprinter in the early part of his career. He's the brother of Sylvain Chavanel. 2 completely different types of races. Sylvain Chavanel, who's worn the yellow jersey in the Tour de France, is much more of an aggressive rider, looks for the breakaways, and he's also currently looking for a new team because his contract with the Swiss IAM cycling team has not yet been renewed for next season. Over the top, back with the leaders, Christophe Riblon. He's a man who's no stranger to racing well in the mountains, and no stranger at all to racing well in the Alpine passes as well, because he's won a stage in the Pyrenees back in 2010 and a stage at Alpe d'Huez in 2013 on the centenary version of the Tour de France, when it went up Alpe d'Huez on 2 occasions. So, as we begin the descent away from the Col de la Morte, it's the sprint point next on the horizon. Well, just looking at the back of the leading group of 29 riders, the gap has come down a fraction to 3 3/4 minutes. This is Andrew Talansky, the American rider who finished on second on yesterday's stage. The pressure at the front is being applied by the 2 riders from AG2R, Romain Bardet, and his teammate who's in the break, Christophe Riblon. They're trying to make sure that they can stay clear, I think, up until the next start of the very long climb up to the Col du Glandon, which tips in at just inside of 2,000 meters in altitude. 1,950 meters. But it's a rather strange situation because we've got 2 teams in the main field behind who really are not overly concerned and shouldn't be overly concerned about the breakaway. Giant Alpecin may be trying to line up for a win for Warren Barguil.
Well, we've got Giant on the front, we've got Trek on the front, and one team that will be cheering will be Chris Froome and the Sky Boys, but I've really no idea why they're chasing.
Well, I think Giant Alpecin, we're looking at here, Phil, they're thinking about just making sure that breakaway doesn't get too far ahead, because they're thinking about Romain Bardet leapfrogging Warren Bardet. The thing for that is, look, it's always very important to race to be the first Frenchman in the Tour de France, and that seems to be what they're thinking about. Although Barguil may well be thinking about the possibility of a victory today. He's a good climber and a very good descender, and I have a feeling today that this race could be decided on the descent.
Well, at the moment, Romain Bardet, because he's in the breakaway, has leapfrogged over Warren Barguil. So the 2 Frenchmen vying for the top finish for the French, and the 10th and 11th in the race. And that's the obvious reason why they're trying to limit that escape today, because Barguil, the man that knocked off Geraint Thomas, you remember, going into Gap, is in the breakaway. He's not in the breakaway. Let's see if we can give you any speeds as they come down. Yes, 30. Looks like they're doing about 35 with the leaders. 37 miles an hour they're coming down, which is not very fast for, but these are very technical descents.
Well, yeah, very technical. You can see that hairpin bend there. You'll come down the straights at approximately 45 miles an hour. Get into the corners, you'll slow down quite dramatically to less than 25 miles an hour. And then the important thing is to be in the right gear and accelerate again right up to maximum. On a descent, a technical descent like this, a guy who can manage the speeds going in and out of the corners, can open up a gap over at least a good minute over the people who are chasing.
Pretty much a descent now all the way down to 360 meters above sea level. We're coming down at 1,360 meters above sea level, and then we can test the sprint as we start to climb away again from Rieux-Peru, and after that we're on to the lower slopes of the Col de Glandon. That's a bit better. That's pushing near 50 miles an hour.
Well, I'm not sure that Team Movistar are going to be too happy with this, Phil, because this is giving Team Sky a little bit of a back seat. So they're quite happy right now. They're not concerned that the teammates of Chris Froome, of any of the riders in that leading group of 29 on the road, because so many of those riders have lost huge chunks of time. But what it does when you've got Giant Alpecin and Trek Factory Racing doing the pacemaking is allows the teammates on Team Sky to have a little bit of a rest and follow in the slipstreams and wait to do the work later on in the stage.
So Giant are taking up the responsibility because they're trying to keep their Warren Barguil in touch with the other Frenchman, Romain Bardet, who is in the breakaway. So Jens, how do you see this day working out at the moment? There's a lot of tactics being played out.
It is. It's a typical stage for the last week of Tour de France. There are so many different layers of tactics, strategies, ideas and desires. Each team has their little own plan. Like we just talked about, people on defend 7th place, 8th place, 9th place. Teams looking out for the team GC. I mean, I understand also they work more than 2,000 kilometers, really hard to get their position. So you don't want to give it away with a lucky breakaway. That's why, for example, now we can see here Team Giant Alpecin chasing to keep Warren Barguil in contact with his potential top 10 placing. We can see here Team Giant Alpecin chasing to keep Warren Barguil in contact with his potential top 10 placing. So it's the race for the stage, it's a race for top 10 place, it's a race for the yellow jersey, so many different layers, and we can just sit back, relax, and just enjoy the great show this guy's providing for us here.
Hey, right, and you're not even riding, Jens, and just to remind our viewers, you've ridden the Tour de France on 17 occasions. Jens, do you think that breakaway, it's only got 3:39, will survive the Col de Glandon and stay clear?
What I believe, in my expert opinion, it's too close. There's too much desire to bring it back. It's too many riders in the front. 30 riders, they're never going to work all together. So I think we see some people trying to bridge across from the peloton. That will basically leading into an attacking launch pad for the GC contenders. So no, they're not going to survive the Glandon. We're going to see a lot of serious attacks coming from the peloton. And so I believe the race is going to reopen on the Glandon.
Boo-boo, you're such a spoiled sport, Jens, but never mind, we'll see. 3:42 the current gap.
People have said in the past, that guy is not just a pure sprinter, he's someone who can do so many things on a bike. In fact, I was talking to Sean Yates again about Peter Sagan. He said the amazing thing about this guy, he's such a natural athlete. So we were doing on some core workouts to strengthen the inner core strength and to do some abdominal work. And he said just because of the fact that he was working out hard, he put on 4.5 kilos of muscle by the amount of work that he was doing in the gym. He's a natural athlete who very much reminds me of the great speed skater who turned cyclist in the latter part of his career, Eric Yeadon, who actually was an orthopedic surgeon.
He went from his 5 gold medals in Lake Placid and to ride the Tour de France and the Tour of Italy. Now, as we continue the descent here, it's cooling down actually. It's dropped 3 degrees Celsius out there on the course. Shouldn't worry too much about that. The wind is pretty strong. I think it's stronger now at the finish line than it was forecast. And we're really tucked in under the mountains at Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne. And we've only had one finish here. It came back in 2010. Sandy Cassard, probably best remember when a dog knocked him off, he picked himself up and won a stage of the Tour de France. But he rode 11 tours in his career and he won 3 times. His last win was right here, though, where we're headed to today in Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne. Well, Giant clearly have a plan. They're very concerned about the escape of Romain Bardet and they're trying to keep their man, Warren Barguil, in a position ahead of him in the overall.
Well, it's also got a two-pronged attack with Giant Alpecin, Phil, because not only is Warren Barguil high up in the overall stands, he's just got himself inside of the top 10, but he's also a very good descender. So,
I nearly jumped off the bike myself then. Yeah.
Well, that's why I'm a bit concerned about Giant doing all of this pacemaking here. They're obviously going down this hill very, very rapidly, and they're trying to maybe set it up for Warren Barguil down towards the end.
Just take another look at that. Oh, a little bit of a wobble there. It must have been something on the road there. He corrected it well. A reflex. The man behind him's looking a bit perturbed. I'm not surprised as they come down the mountain.
But Alps not too far away from going through the La Grave, which is on the other side of the mountains from here. And actually, which is where the road is blocked on the way down to Alpe d'Huez, which is why the penultimate stage of the Tour de France this year had to be changed, and we're not going over the Col du Galibier. 5 kilometers to go. So this is the front group. We're about 5 kilometers now away from Rue Peru. And there you can see, I think this group will all come back together. At the moment, everybody does not want to get caught out by that little split on the descent.
So as they make their way down towards Rue Peru, the overall standing situation, Peter Sagan's had a great week, 420 points. Gripe, we haven't seen too much of Andre. He's had 3 stage wins, though he's in 2nd place. Consistency pays off. Paul, who calls this a mountain stage when you get a flat road like that?
Well, this is probably the only little bit of flat road the riders have got now as they start to line themselves up for Rue Peru. But I think that little descent we had away from the Col de la Morte there, which is a horrible name, I think, because it means the climb of the death. Well, I think it's an indication of just how important the descents are going to be on today's stage. But being very attentive there is number 21. That's Thibaut Pinot, third overall in the Tour de France last year. He does not like going downhill at all, and as we saw that yesterday, but he realizes he must stay in contact, because looming on the horizon now is the high spot of today's stage. Once they've gone through the sprint point, it's pretty much all uphill for around about 20 miles up to the top of the Col du Glandon.
And just peeping in the picture there, 109, that is one of the Yates twins. They are identical twins, and they're working very hard to upset the commentators, because the other one goes in a breakaway every day. Yesterday it was Adam, and today it's Simon. Thank heavens they were numbers.
Well, the funny thing is, at least they've got a sign on the side of the road. The French have this sign, un train peut cacher un autre. I think we maybe need to change that. A Yates might be hiding a Yates, because yes, every day there's a Yates in the break. I'm trying to remember, I have to go back through my notes. The difference is, Phil, one wears white sunglasses, the other wears green sunglasses. But I told you that yesterday.
You did indeed, and good luck to the Yates. They're both together in their first Tour de France. One Simon rode last year for a little of the way, but today they're riding together, and it must be great for the family to have two riders in the Tour de France. Looking down from the helicopter at the groups there, this group is working hard. They've got them pegged in that chase behind, but at what cost? Because we're heading to the Col du Glandon now, and they haven't moved either a second forward or backwards these last few kilometres. Giant Alpecin could be throwing their strength to the wind here.
Yeah, I really do question why they're working so hard, Phil, and certainly they must have got the nod from Warren Barguil. Yes, he is 10th in the overall standings, but I think more importantly, he might be thinking about the possibility of getting himself a stage victory. And it's almost as if it's the most important thing to do is to be the best Frenchman in the Tour de France, rather than actually trying to finish in the top three. There you can start to see how much work is being done, and then all of a sudden you see these groups are really splitting up on the descent. This is now back with the leading group. That's Cyril Gauthier there in the dark green jersey of Europcar. The man who actually made the real effort on the descent was a rider who's won at the Alpe d'Huez in the past, and that was Christophe Riblon.
That man has come to the front now, and he's driving this time for his youngster and his teammate Romain Bardet, because they're trying to put Bardet best Frenchman at the moment. He is best Frenchman. He's gained back enough time on the road, racing into Rio Peru, which is 2.9 kilometers to go for the sprint. And it's just money. It's all about money, because none of these guys affect the overall standings in the green jersey. But there's a matter of about $1,200.
Yeah, well, 1,500 euros, 1,000 euros for second, and 500 for third. And there, Michael Matthews, take your hat off to that rider, just going through there in the green and white jersey of Orica Green Edge. We go back to look at Thibaut Pinot, because Michael Matthews was actually nursing broken ribs. There he is, nursing broken ribs in the first few days of this Tour de France, but he did not want to abandon.
And he wouldn't. In fact, by that massive crash in the north of France, who didn't abandon with broken bones. He refused, and he's been in pain ever since. But he said if he can make the last week, he will recover. Looking down the line here, and just passing through the picture there, was Andrew Talansky. And he having a great Tour de France now, and he's coming good. And he's looking at better. His 10th place finish. And at the moment, he is sitting in 12th overall. If he hadn't missed the break, hadn't had the puncture a couple of days ago, he would have now been in 9th place overall.
Well, bear in mind how well Andrew Talansky goes downhill, Phil, because it was on the downhill part of the course yesterday. They almost bridged up to the leader on the road, and he just missed out for a few seconds. So I think he's thinking today about the fact that there's a lot of descent once we've gone over the summit of the Col du Glandon, and then that very, very tricky descent inside of the last 12 miles of the race. Les Lacets de Montgenèvre, and it's going to be really incredible if this breakaway survives. But as you can see, it seems to be pretty much pegged in at the moment at 3¼ minutes. It's really going nowhere. Well, Team Sky, they're sitting in their armchairs, just keeping an eye on this, saying, well, let you guys do all the hard work and we'll come in later. Another team, I think, who are waiting for a little bit later on, the dark blue jerseys there of Team Movistar. And again, Movistar have made the move that yesterday Team Sky made, because Movistar have got 2 riders in the leading group of 29. Now it's Lotto Jumbo have come a little bit further forward. It always is complicated, as Jens Voigt told us a little earlier on, the last few days of the Tour de France. Everybody's trying to defend their own little position there, because you've got the riders who are thinking about finishing 7th and 8th and 9th overall. So it takes a lot of pressure off the team of the overall leader. And in fact here there's a little bit of a split in the main field. And this little bit of a split was caused by the same descent that the leading group split up on a few moments ago, the descent of the Col de la Morte, and that bodes well, I think, for the amount of descending we've got to do in the last part of this race, because the descent away from the Col de Glandon down to the Lacet de Montvernier is going to be very, very exciting racing.
So we're looking at 50 miles or 80 kilometers still to race. The peloton may look quite large as we look at it here, but we do have a group of riders behind, including, again, Paul, Tony Galopin and Peter Sagan.
Well, I think the important thing, Phil, is that we've seen this race, as we talked about early on, it's been splitting up on the downhill part of the course. We saw the leading group of 29 split up on the descent away from the Col de la Morte, but also the main field split as well, and that was because of the pressure at the front from Lotto, Jumbo, Giant Alpecin at the front of the main field, which is why currently there's a number of riders off the back end of the yellow jersey group.
That was Christophe Reblon who's just put his hand up. He's going back to his team car. It's a good time to go before we get onto the slopes of the Glandon. He won't be too interested in the sprint coming up. This is Simon Yates in the white jersey, Thomas de Gent in the red jersey, and Dan Martin, who almost won the stage in the Pyrenees, but sadly had to be content with second.
Well, quite funny for the thing, Phil, thinking about the sponsors of certain teams. The man on the front has been on the front of the race. I don't know how many kilometres, Thomas de Gent. He's been in the breakaway for about 500 kilometres. I saw an advert this morning in one of the Belgian newspapers for Soudal, which is in fact a glue. And he said, basically, if you translated the advertisement, it said, well, why do I worry about broken ribs in the Tour de France? I've got my Soudal.
Clever man. Well, he's stuck to the road at the moment because this breakaway is still at 3 minutes and 31 seconds. There are 3 groups on the road. We're calling the last group the Group Sagan at the moment.
Well, you know, when we talk about the amount of breakaway of Thomas de Gent, I had a quick look there, Phil, as he makes a move here to get himself some points and some money. He's the 3rd rated rider in the breakaway with more than 13 hours in the lead at the Tour de France.
Well, Gent has taken the points here at Riperu, so he gets 20 points. More importantly, he gets the money, unless he gets past before the line. Now, he's made it right on the line there.
Oh, Phil, just ahead of Jan Barter. Thank you very much.
Another man has spent hours in the front.
Yep, and just slipping to the back of the group now, having done a little bit of the pacemaking early on the descent, was Christophe Reblon. Now, the man you're looking at here, he's got a very impressive pedgree. Finished 3rd overall in the Giro d'Italia a couple of years ago, a winner over a massive big mountain, a legendary mountain in the Tour of Italy, the Stelvio. And so you don't give a man like this, Phil, 10 or 15 metres advantage before the start of the Col de Glandon.
No, and you can tell by his body, actually, he's not waiting. He's trying to split this field up now and try and draw a new breakaway. That's bound to be what will happen. Dan Martin spotted it in that lime green jersey. .323 as we continue here to wind up. These are the boys from Team Sky. This is the man in charge of this race. It takes 3 minutes 10-second advantage over Quintana, 4:09 over Valverde. At the moment, they're the podium in Paris. It can change.
Get away from the valley into the town of La Tour. That's where the climb starts. Right, just having a look at the yellow jersey group now. As you can see, Chris Froome has got 3 teammates in front of him. Just behind Chris Froome, then it's the Movistar train with Alejandro Valverde looking very prominent. He's been pretty aggressive over the last few days. And of course, Nairo Quintana, who threw everything he has, and he's got stronger towards the end of the Tour. I think I'm quite convinced that with Nairo Quintana in the white jersey there, the Colombian rider who finished 2nd overall in the Tour de France 2 years ago, the fact that he didn't participate in the Criterium de Dauphiné will mean that he'll get a little bit stronger in the last week of the race, when some of the other riders may well start to show signs of fatigue. This is the front split. 167 is Dan Martin, 161 is a teammate there, and that is Andrew Talansky. 91 is Joachim Rodriguez. Number 3, Jakob Fuglsang. 73, Thomas de Gent. The Belgian rider who's been on the front of the main field or in the breakaway a lot throughout this Tour de France. This is the second group on the road. The two riders, that's rider Yeadon, he missed out, but he's not too concerned that Yeadon. He's got two riders in the leading group of 11.
And they're trying to regroup here. Michael Matthews is in this back group, so too is Romain Bardet, number 12. Stretching out his back is Serge Powell's. They need to think how they're going to cross that gap before the climb really starts.
Well, there's no organisation in this group, Phil, and they need to get themselves organised very quickly. Yeah, share the pacemaking at the front, and just looking at the body language there, you can see that there is no urgency. And that could give this leading split now of around about 11 riders a chance to prize a lead before we start this next climb, and it's a very long climb. Once they go through Allemont, they climb up to the climb of the town of La Bavère. But it's about, to me, it's almost a 20-mile climb. It's only categorized over 21 kilometers, which is 12 miles, but it's a long way, a long false flat drag up to the start of the climb proper.
And number 21 here, he sort of shook his head earlier on to the camera, indicating he wasn't feeling too good. But Thibaut Pinot there, he's in the wrong half of this split. Bob Jungels, 147. Simon Yates in that white-blue jersey. And there's Bardet as well in the second group.
They're going to be very, very difficult because there's a lot of pride at stake at winning a mountain stage as we go quickly back up to join the leaders.
I don't know if you saw the speed trap flash there, or to tell you your speed, but the boys just went through at 28 kilometers an hour going uphill. That's very, very quick.
It's pretty impressive. This is the Luxembourg national champion, 23 years of age, by the way, Bob Jungels. And a great start for the future. He's done a lot so far in his career, and many people are tipping him to be the next Frank and Andy Schleck.
Well, both together. Well, that will be impressive, I must confess. But he won the Tour of Bessèges at the start of the season this year.
Yeah, but he also was 2 times national champion just before the start of the Tour de France, so when he won the time trial and the road racing championships, and that tacked onto the back of the 6th place overall in the Tour of Switzerland. Again, today it's a little bit of tourism. There's Michael Matthews. You've got to admire the courage of Michael Matthews, who we were expecting big things from Michael in the Tour de France this year, but unfortunately he had a very nasty crash early on. He's had 4 wins so far this year, including a stage in the Tour of Switzerland and a couple of stages. He thought there was a chance of getting himself a victory on the roads down towards Mons, but it's just been a little bit too hard for him, despite the fact that he's been carrying some very nasty injuries. Gordon Barguil was at the back. This is now Jakob Fuglsang. This is not the descent, by the way. This is part way through the course. We've done 8 or 9 kilometers of the Col du Glandon. We go downhill for about 2.5 kilometers. And then we start to climb up again. It gets very, very steep at 1,200 meters in altitude, and for about 3 kilometers, it's between 9.5% and 11% the gradient. So, if anybody feels like they've got their, if they feel like they've got their climbing legs, they might make a move here.
Cyril Gauthier is the rider who's trying to get himself back into the action here. It looks as though we might see Simon Yates there on the right. Serge Powell's the man in the black and white. Thibaut Pinot, far right, still struggling, but hanging on in there. There's still a group ahead of this group now. Well, it looks as though they've come together on that little bit of a descent, actually, because they're saying here this is now the head of the race.
Yeah, there was that 2-kilometer part of the course where they dropped down a fraction, and now they're going to get up to what is probably the steepest part of the climb here, Phil, and they go for about 2.5 kilometers. Between 9.5% and 11%, and Pinot, a little helping hand there from a French supporter. He's obviously paying for the effort of yesterday, and the fact that, you know, it's never good when you have a crash because you don't really sleep well overnight. And he actually said this morning he wasn't quite sure how his body was going to react.
Well, he's got the answers now.
Pinot. Well, I expected a good ride by Pinot today once he got himself into the move, but you have to admire his courage. He's a long way down in the overall standings, but certainly he wants to do whatever he can to try and get himself a stage victory. But with the pressure that's being applied here by Bob Jungels, followed by Joachim Rodriguez in the polka dot, Rodriguez has already climbed up into first place. It was in second place overall for quite some time behind Chris Froome, but he's now got himself 68 points to 61 points, and there are 25 points for the first rider to cross this climb here, which is an outside categorized climb, but there's a lot of points available for the stage victories tomorrow and the next day, because the points are doubled on the tomorrow two stages, to the next two stages. Simon Yates. It really is quite remarkable how the two Yates brothers have farmed the breakaway one after the other. And now another rider in difficulty a little bit to win Anacona, the Colombia rider Talansky, also paying maybe for the efforts of yesterday, but he's just getting into his own rhythm. As I said, this is probably the steepest part of the climb here. There over the next 5 kilometers, the real steep gradients are between 9.5% and 11%, happen up till the 13th kilometer of the climb. Serge Powell's just keeps bouncing back. He's also done pretty well on today's stage. He's climbed up into 4th place in the King of the Mountains competition. He's just behind Jakob Fuglsang, who has 47 points to 43. Everybody now trying to find their own little rhythm as this man. You can hear the support that this youngster has got here. France looking for a man to replace Bernard Hinault as the last French winner of the Tour de France, which is way back in 1985. So this group really getting a serious sort out here, and obviously Bob Jungels. And again, I just come back to the fact I can't really figure out why Team Trek Factory Racing were doing the pacemaking when they've got this youngster in the breakaway who was riding exceptionally well. Should have given him a free hand and forced the other teams to do the pacemaking to try and chase. Romain Bardet looking a lot more comfortable as well there in this group. The danger man for the descent, national champion of Italy, Vincenzo Nibali. 209, Florian Vachon of Bretagne. A lot of riders now starting to guard, but there's Michael Matthews. Well, at the front, Nicholas Roach doing the pacemaking, followed there over to the left-hand side. You can see Geraint Thomas, 4th overall for Geraint Thomas, Olympic champion back in 2012, the track multi-world champion. Matthews.
Oh, bloody hell. Come on, Ruby.
Just in front of him, another Australian, that's Michael Matthews, hails from Canberra. Winner of a stage in the Tour last year. It's a long, long climb. This is a horrendous climb. Well, you see, this is the interesting thing about the Col de Glongo. Because of the length of climb, you can go through a bad patch, you find your rhythm again, and Talansky and Powell's were both dropped from the front group, but now Powell's got himself back there in the black and white jersey of Etienne Kubeka, and so too has Andrew Talansky. A little bit further up is the Colombian rider we were talking about a little bit earlier on, winner Anacona. He's a great rider brought into the squad during the transfer season. Talansky just slipping off the back.
I did this route a few days ago.
He's lost a huge chunk and
with a large
hopes of trying to get himself a victory this afternoon. He's about a minute now behind this group where the power seems to have gone out of Thibaut Pinot. The man may be making the best operation on a day like this is in fact Romain Bardet, because he looks very, very comfortable as Thibaut Pinot has slipped back, so too is Dan Martin.
He's gone back to the group. Yes, as you said, Paul, it's unusual, but Dan has gone back, and that wasn't part of his plan today, but he's cracked a little bit. You know, that peloton at 250 still has a chance to stay away here.
Just looking at the irony of the sport there, Phil, the man chasing him down at the front of the playing field was his cousin, Nicholas Roach. I wonder if there'll be a quick cousin exchange of words as they go by.
Well, there is Nicholas on the far right of the Sky Boys. You see cousin Dan, he's not going to even look at him, I don't think. Yes, he is.
Hello, cuz.
No words exchanged. Got a job to do, can't talk. Now this is Pinot, and I don't like the picture. I think he's been unhitched again by the leaders.
Yeah, the last time check, Phil, he was around about a minute and 26 seconds now as it starts to pop through, and that's Ruben Plaza just a little bit further back. obviously paying for the efforts of yesterday, but I have to admire his spirit, Phil. He knows he's not going to finish in the top 10 of the Tour de France this year, but he's quite happy to go and look for the moves and try and get a stage victory. But it's very, very difficult coming into the third week of the race and with all of these mountain stages going.
And the Galopin, who has gone steadily downhill literally over this last hilly section of the Alps, is in a back group now in double figures behind the race today, in company with Sagan, who's the green jersey rider in the Tour. This is still Talansky, and he's still okay. He's on the back wheel there of Anacona, looking quite cool, composed. And if we get to the top of the Glandon, well, there's a short climb. That's only 3 kilometers, the big twisty climb near the end. The group Maillot Jaune at the moment, as we looked out in the helicopter, we can just see the beauty of the Alps just now. 3 minutes 16 seconds the gap as we go through the Défilé de Maupin. Paul Sherwin knows everything about the Défilé de Maupin.
Yes, I do. In fact, it's the upper valley of the Eau d'Ol that widens out upstream, and that's where it gets its name, the Maupas Gorge. It is between the eastern secondary ranges of the range of Les Sept Lots, which is a mountaintop finish of the Tour de France. I don't think it's used for probably 30 odd years.
Well, unfortunately, I remember finishing up there, seeing it finish up there, not finishing myself. Rodriguez is got to be seen as a big danger to win the stage today. This is Bob Jungels. This guy goes off the back, gets back and goes straight to the front and starts work again. I think, as you said, Paul, this is a man of the future for the Tour de France.
Certainly is. The man behind him, though, Joachim Rodriguez, he's just counting out the pedal strokes, so just hoping he can get over the top of this climb with everybody else to get himself a few more points, because the King of the Mountains is going to go down to the Alpe d'Huez on Saturday night, because there are big points, double points available for tomorrow's stage finish and the stage finish at Alpe d'Huez for the King of the Mountains classification. So much did the organisation this year wants the King of the Mountains competition to honour the big climbers.
This is becoming quite a select group as we continue up the slopes of the Col de Glandon. And we're getting just pure climbers left in this front group as the gaps now are beginning to open, and they may yet stay away from that peloton. Another peloton would like to see the return, but particularly Giant Alpecin would like to see the return of the Frenchman Bardet. But I've noticed that they're no longer chasing. They're hoping that Sky will just continue the in-house battle now for who finishes first in Paris.
Yeah, and Sky, as I said, well, they've got no reason to chase. They can sit there and stamp out the tempo, and as far as they're concerned, the breakaway group can have its freedom today. I think tomorrow, though, we'll see them doing a lot more work to keep the group together, because I think both Chris Froome and Nairo Quintana will be looking for the pride of trying to win the two big mountain stages, La Toussuire mountain top finish, and of course Alpe d'Huez.
Still, Chris Froome still happy with the way it's going. They're going to have to attack them a long way out if they're going to gain real time on Chris Froome. He knows that. He's very happy with them to stay exactly where they are. 3 minutes 10 seconds back to Quintana in that white jersey.
And for the moment, there's no moves on the yellow jersey, as we can see Geraint Thomas just over on the left-hand side. I would expect if any move is likely to come, it will come closer to the top of this climb, and they will try and take advantage of the long descent down into the valley of Maurienne. Although, in my mind, I think they probably will think about the two mountaintop finishes as the chance for Nairo Quintana to make his move. And interesting to see Rochon there from Bretagne just sitting at the back of the group.
Oh, not really asked anymore.
Otto Jumbo, the man obscured, is their leader, Robert Hessing, and having a very good tour. As he sits up there in 6th place overall, breathing right down the neck of none other than Alberto Contador. And it's gone out as far as the breakaways are concerned. 3 minutes 50, a nice select little group of 10 riders up front now from the original 29.
Well, Nick Roach is doing
he's done a great job today.
Yeah, the bulk of the work he's doing today, and I think he was quite happy to stay. Richie Port there. There's Warren Barguil just a little bit further back, but now starting to move up as we get closer to the top of the climb. Alejandro Valverde, himself a very good descender. If there is a move coming from Vincenzo Nibali, watch out for the Spanish champion. He will look for a move on the descent.
Just tick off to the left there, rider Yeadon has just rejoined this group from the back of the race. So the Canadian back here in the front group now. There he's just peeping into our picture. These.
Well, this is further down the slopes, almost 2 minutes, 2.25 minutes behind now. Well, 2:52, it's going up all the time now. And this is Pinot behind the leading group. He's slipping away there. In fact, he's getting caught and passed by Thomas Vogler, former French national champion, former wearer of the yellow jersey in the Tour de France. And Vogler seems to have got himself a very fine rhythm there.
I'm joined by Torsten Schmidt from the Katusha team. Torsten, you've got Joaquim Rodriguez in the breakaway today. Is the priority the stage or the King of the Mountains classification?
Yeah, the first objective is of course the King of the Mountain classification. We went into the race with this goal today, and if you can take both, it's a fantastic, super fantastic day. But so far we are really happy with Burrito's performance today.
Do you think the breakaway can survive? Because it looks like that yellow jersey group might get active towards the top of the Glandon.
Yeah, it's a long way to the finish line, and so far it's really difficult with just a little bit at more 2 minutes. It would surprise me.
There is Talansky on the back of the group, sitting on the back wheel of Anacona there with the yellow number 52. They lead the team race, Movistar.
Well, you know, the funny thing about the man sitting on the back, 161 there, Andrew Talansky, his nickname is the Pitbull. I'm not surprised, really, because he's got his teeth into this breakaway. He will not give up. He's been dropped a couple of times early on. And rider Yeadon, in fact, was dropped very early on and found his rhythm, and he's ridden himself back into this leading group and swelled it in numbers. But the rider from Luxembourg on the front is doing a pretty impressive job, Bob Jungels.
This is Thomas Vogler here, but he is the one rider. He's somewhere. He should have seen him riding with Pinot. But Pinot is dropped away from it now, and he's gone behind. And so it looks to me as though we've still got in the background one of the riders from Giant. So it must be Georg Freidler who was in the breakaway. Just coming round the corner there.
A very brief look there. This has become a very select group here now. You can see just a little bit further back Daniel Ovis, the Swiss national champion. But Nicholas Roach doing a phenomenal job of work here for the team. But again, Phil, you can see the gap is now starting to stretch out quite dramatically. It came in as close, it came inside of the 2 minute mark before. There's Pinot. He's about to get caught by the yellow jersey group. And the fact that he's lost a good 2 minutes on the slope of this climb, I wonder if he'll be able to get onto the back seat of the bus there as they go by him.
I don't think so. I think he's made his efforts, and he's not a challenger for overall. He'll just try and ride home. He's got 48 kilometers to go. He's not far off. He's in the second portion of the Glandon at the moment. Jens, we're looking at 3:37 now, so they're thinning that group down the front. Hey, your young espoir there, Bob Jungels, is riding superbly.
Well, it looks like he's on a mission today. I can see every time the TV shows the front group, he is working in the front, and he must be feeling strong and confident. Maybe he got the best sprint of all the riders in this group, and that's what he's hoping for. That comes down to that in the end. But when I look back at the peloton, I saw this dominance of Team Sky. They didn't even have to use Geraint Thomas or Richie Porter yet. You can see it now. They have still the Irish, former Irish champion riding in the front. So I think that really intimidates everybody else. Yeah, Nicholas Roach, yeah. So that really intimidates everybody else. So much for, isolating Froome in his yellow jersey and attack him. No chance. Team Sky is really dominant.
Well, Warren Barguil's going off the front here as we speak, and again, there's surprisingly enough, there's absolutely no reaction at all to the move by Warren Barguil.
Well, it was Sky. It's not for Sky to make the move because Barguil is still some 13 minutes down overall, so it's up to the others to counter the move. It looks like they're going to counter it as well.
Well, bear in mind, Phil, his team, Giant Alpecin, did a lot of pacemaking along the valley roads before we actually started this climb of the Col de Glandon. And I think that was because they got the nod from Warren Barguil. He said, look, this is the kind of stage I like. We've got a long climb up to the summit of the Col de Glandon, and I like the descent away from it. But Robert Hessink is making a move now.
Now that might cause something more of a reaction, particularly from Contador's team, because he's only just behind Contador in the overall standings. But again, Sky will not react. They're going to do what Chris Froome said this morning. We just watch the podium. We're not interested in anybody else.
The only guys I think they will respond, although this is Richie Porte now, this is a rather strange, because this was a steady move by Team Sky, and all of a sudden the lights are going out for Richie Porte after being in the breakaway yesterday.
Well, he used energy yesterday, and he looks like he's leaving them all to it here today. Even afforded a little smile to the spectators there.
Well, I think coming back to the Sky operator, there's Dan Martin going through there. The temperature around about 25 degrees, but I think Team Sky will not make any move, Phil, unless they see an attack come from Alejandro Valverde or Nairo Quintana. Shortly going to get joined by the rest of these riders. 3:09, 3:11 is the gap to the leading riders on the road. And Sky, well, they've still got power there, because Nick Roach is really finding something special here this afternoon. Behind him, Leopold Koning. Geraint Thomas in 4th place in the overall standings, and also very comfortably in there. Just behind Geraint Thomas, who's behind the yellow jersey, you've got Nairo Quintana, Valverde, Nibali, and not too far away, you've got Alberto Contador, who, although he was in an accident yesterday, seems to have recovered a little bit from that crash. Roach's face, though, that's a picture of pain and effort, while Leopold Koning just over to his his left-hand shoulder, right-hand side there, just doesn't show any emotion at all. 8% now, while further up with this big job of work being done by Ryder Hagedal. I think he's obviously had the nod from Andrew Talansky. Talansky is the man who could create the improvement on yesterday's 2nd place, and he's always said that he was going to ride better in the 3rd week of this race, and with the descent and the tricky little final climb of the day, he might be nurturing thoughts of a victory.
32 seconds was all he lost by yesterday when he crossed the line in 2nd place, and he's looking to try and reverse that. I still have a feeling the strong men at the breakaway will survive. The peloton are over 3 minutes back, and they're becoming a very select peloton. There's a little idea just how hard the climb of the Col de Glandon is, and we are still 3.5 miles, 6.5 kilometers from the top of this mountain.
Well, another chance to look at one of the incredible lakes and hydroelectric schemes that the French have put into place over the last few years. This one starting back in 1978, the Lake of the Grand Maison, or the Big House. Well, it's a full house here.
As we're watching Gianpaolo Caruso here at the back now, released to ride his own race now, because he was on the side of, he's a good climber. He was alongside TJ Van Garderen, the American leader of Team BMC until yesterday, and Van Garderen forced to abandon with a sickness.
So this is a
now he's in the breakaway for himself. And they're looking at the barrage of the Lac de Grand Maison.
As I said, Phil, started in 1978. It took until 1985. Now Contador is making the move. Well, people might have thought that this man was injured, but Alberto Contador is never down and out.
Well, he's got to go on this climb. He's still got an awful lot of time, but you know, you've got to take your hat off to Alberto Contador. He said, I'm not riding the Tour de France, and this is how he put in his attack. And there was Quintana just shaking his head, well, who's going to react? At the moment, nobody, but he said he's not riding to Paris for a podium place. It's win or nothing.
And he has to try and move from a long way out. I would have expected to see a response there coming from Vincenzo Nibali. So there's no response at all behind Alberto Contador. This guy, Phil, what a racer. What a man who goes out and takes the bull by the horns.
45 kilometers to go. There's still the terrain in front to make good time gains. He's climbing at 24.3 at this stage of the Col de Glandon. I'm not surprised there's no reaction from the field, but can he keep this pressure up?
Well, he can, Phil. We've seen him do crazy moves like this in the Vuelta a España, in the Giro d'Italia. These are the kind of moves that Eddie Merckx used to make. Even when he was in the yellow jersey, he would attack with 40, 50 kilometers to go. But this could turn the tables if there's no response from Team Sky. He's got a lot to do, though. They don't need to panic. To put it into perspective, yes, Alberto Contador is in 5th place overall. but he's 6 minutes and 40 seconds down. So for Sky, they mustn't panic at a moment like this. They've got to do the calculations. They've got to figure out, yes, well, he's 6.5 minutes down. There are other people he might start to threaten. We could see the moves coming as he gets a little bit closer, coming from Team Movistar. But again, let's not forget, despite the fact that he had an accident on the descent yesterday, Alberto Contador is a great racer. But Contador, well, he's 2:45. He's about 20 seconds ahead of the yellow jersey group as we go that little bit further up the road. The leading group now are 5 kilometers to the top of the climb. It should take him around about 15 minutes or so to get there. 2.5 minutes back to the group of Warren Barguil. And let's not forget, Contador is about to make the junction with that group. There's some firepower in that group too, because alongside Barguil, you've also got Robert Hessink, Talansky, Rodriguez, and a big old rider, Yeadon, on the far side.
Well, as we go around the beautiful barrage here of the lake, Alberto Contador really has upset the rhythm. But you know, Paul, there's absolutely no point in Chris Froome chasing. He's only concerned with Quintana and Valverde. And he says it's the others on the podium who've got to worry about these attacks.
Well, he's right. You've got to be sensible at this part of the race. And as we talked a little bit earlier on, as you come into the last few days of the Tour de France, people are fighting for the position as second or third or seventh and eighth. And that's why we've seen the move by Warren Barguil, Robert Hessink, a little bit further up the road.
Contador's flown up to them.
He's come straight across, and he will find some firepower and assistance in this group. Warren Barguil is the rider in second position. He wants to ride higher in the overall standing. He wants to try and win a stage today, but this is a strong move.
I bet you Warren Barguil had a double take then when he looked around at Matthias Frank and saw that orange, lime greenish jersey of Alberto Contador, none other. Quick few deep breaths by Alberto, and I reckon he will attack them again. The face now of Nicholas Roach. Now it's hurting.
Well, let's not forget, Contador is about 6 seconds behind Geraint Thomas at the start of the day. Although Team Sky are not riding to finish 4th or 5th with Geraint Thomas, they're riding just to win the bike race. They're quite a long way, about 4 kilometers to go to the top of the climb. They've gone there. They started at 2,500 feet above sea level. They're over 5,500 feet now, and the gaps are really now starting to look interesting. And by the way, it's a long, long way back, Phil, to the group of Peter Sagan and Galopin, almost 20 minutes.
Well, it's a little bit of a plateau just now, and it's a good chance to recover from that attack. We should kick up again as we head up towards the summit. Those are the chasers. This is Alberto Contador, and he's gone to the front now. Warren Barguil has caught a fast train here now as he sits on the tail of Contador, who is looking to climb up in the overall standings tonight. Just look at him. He looked over his shoulder. He can expect no help from these boys. I think that was 5 kilometers to the summit we have just passed. This is Contador had to do this. Whenever he's tried to attack, he's had bad luck. Yeah, and he crashed yesterday. Now he's going to try and get some time back.
Well, Phil, he's done some crazy moves, and they are crazy moves like this in this part of the sport, because you go from a lot. There's Simon Yates. He's been caught and passed, but Contador has done this, Phil, when he won the Vuelta a España a couple of years ago. He's made moves like this in the Giro d'Italia. He knows that the only chance of defending his pride is to go for a long move like this. He can't gamble on getting 30 seconds on the final climb tomorrow and 40 seconds on Alpe d'Huez. To try and win the Tour de France, he's got to make a move like this, a long, long way from the finish line.
He's got 43 seconds on the yellow jersey.
Well, just looking down at this dam, it is a magnificent backdrop. As I said, once again, the French have done some phenomenal work over recent years in hydropower. And this dam contains 12 million cubic meters of water as we look down there. And I bet one or two of these riders would like to jump into that and cool themselves down.
For some of them, I think just a 1/16-ounce bottle would do them right now. 3 minutes and 6 seconds. Contador, this is big play. He said all along, I'm not riding in the Tour de France to finish anywhere but first. I'm not interested in a podium. Andrew Talansky sits at the back here. The American continuing to climb the overall classification.
Well, hand up there, doesn't look like there's a mechanical incident for the moment. I think he wants to take on board some more fluid. He's very lucky to have alongside him rider Yeadon. Yeadon, he's got that strange, laboured looking pedalling style of his, but he generates some serious wattage. Contador's group now is at least 40 minutes ahead of the yellow jersey group.
Not minutes.
40 seconds, sorry.
Yeah, but this is the group that's now they're going to have to watch out, because that train gets into rhythm and climbers behind. Bob Youngles seems to be doing all of the work in this group at the moment, and Talansky seems to be the one sitting at the back. He wants more, I presume, water.
Yep, he keeps looking forward. A little bit of a touch on the back there. Anacona pushing Roman Bardet into the line. He is a teammate of Nairo Quintana, Colombian rider on the Movistar squad. But as far as he's concerned, this is a free ride for him. He's not going to collaborate at all with this leading group of riders, because he's waiting for a little bit later on in the day if there is a move by Alejandro Valverde or Nairo Quintana.
Now this is the false plateau, you can see it, and then we kick up again, and it gets really hard as we go up towards the summit of the Col de Glandon. 41.5 kilometers. Pierre Roland at the front.
He's making the little move now, I think just testing the waters, and Roman Bardet in second position covers him immediately there. He doesn't want to give him any chance of slipping off the front. You can see now as we get to the top of this climb, the flags are starting to ripple. Bob Youngles has done so much of pacemaking early on, but he's seen this as a dangerous move as Roman Bardet says, look, we've got the gap, I'm off if I can.
But Bardet also now, can Fulsang answer this, and Pierre Roland, because if they can, they're going to leave the others, and Rodriguez is yet to make a move. He's caught in the pack, and Youngles says, well, I can't go. Ryder Hejjedal is going along with Talansky.
Well, Ryder Hejjedal, I think now just trying to pace his teammate back up to the leading trio, and Hejjedal has got so much firepower and a great pedigree behind him as well, a former winner of the Giro d'Italia. He will also ride steadily to try and pace Andrew Talansky back to the front of this race. Well, picking up riders one by one. This rider, Ruben Plata, winner of the stage into Gap just a few days ago, the day before the rest day. And now he's going to look over his shoulder and say, oh, who's this? And this is Alberto Contador, followed by Warren Barguil. They're at 2 minutes to the leaders, and they've still got a couple of kilometres to go to the top of this climb. Barguil, Matthias Frank and Robert Hessink. These are all riders who've moved up into the top positions in the overall standings. Hessink is 6th, Matthias Frank is 8th. Jakob Fulsang has given a free ticket by the team since Vincenzo Nibali. Doesn't look like he's going to defend his title as winner of the King of the Tour de France, at least for this year. Vincenzo Nibali had to make the move towards the top of the climb. Again, we've talked about this man. He is a brilliant descender.
And this is when you've got time on your side, you let the moves come, and there's no reaction from Sky. Froome is trying to force Quintana Valverde to do the chasing.
Well, you might just have noticed there, Geraint Thomas saw the acceleration, looked across at Chris Froome. They said, no, let him go. We will keep together. Oh, well, having said that, Valverde's going.
It had to be Valverde. He's realised that nobody else is going to take up the chase, and Rodriguez has cracked. The new leader in the King of the Mountains has cracked.
Well, he needed to hang on here, Phil, to get over the top. There are big points available, 25 points for the first rider to go over the top of this climb, and he could need those 25 points before we get to the top of the Alpe d'Huez on Saturday. But Roman Bardet, the hope of France, he was 6th overall in the Tour de France last year, is off in pursuit of victory. But Valverde has bridged up, and right on his wheel is the yellow jersey. Chris Froome on his wheel, the white jersey. Nairo Quintana, and clawing their way back up there is Geraint Thomas.
Well, they are putting all of the pressure on, as we see now. The yellow jersey has got around Nibali, last year's winner, back in his place, as he now goes alongside the riders again. Remember that Contador is still ahead by about 45 seconds, and this is Roman Bardet, the best placed French rider in the race, second best placed French rider, but on the road he is now the best placed French rider. Well, watch out for Anacona. He is a very, very good climber, and he's looking to jump the Frenchman here. But no, he isn't. Over the top of the Col de Glandon. We'll go to the photo, I'm not sure, but I think it was Roman Bardet. Nibali is going again.
What he wants to do here, Phil, Nibali, he will chip away and keep moving like this, because he wants to start the descent on his own at the front of the race. Then he can take all of the risks necessary on the first few technical corners and try and build up an advantage.
Talansky has also gone away from that leading group as Quintana is being forced now to take up the chase because Froome won't counter the moves of anybody. He's making the riders sitting second and third in the Tour de France make the effort to bring them back. And this is Quintana joining Nibali.
Well, Geraint Thomas now, 4th overall, is sitting right in front of Chris Froome, and he's just winding up the motor slowly so that he doesn't push Chris Froome into oxygen debt, dragging himself back up to the wheel of Vincenzo Nibali and Nairo Quintana. Quintana has said that he will take every opportunity. He goes once again straight over the top of Nibali.
Well, I'm not sure whether Geraint Thomas can actually lift that one, but this is a good counter punch by the white jersey. And Chris Froome himself is also rocking there, but he's closing the gap.
Well, as you can see, Geraint Thomas is digging very deeply. Valverde has cracked, and so too has Bauke Mollema. So this could be an interesting move here because Geraint Thomas is in 4th place overall. Now, if Valverde loses a big chunk of time here today, Geraint Thomasville could see him climbing up into a podium position.
Well, he needs to get 2 minutes 25 seconds. That's a tall ask, but he's going the right way about it, that is for sure. The order over the top, Contador still on the way up, is Bardet, Anacona, Bob Jungels went over 3rd. Fulsang, who remounted, crossed the top in 4th place, and Powell's was in 5th.
Well, this is Warren Barguil, number 82.
Well, it's a major play by Contador here, but he's only holding a lead now of a few seconds. They're actually closing in on him from behind. Contador over the top. The time starts now. Here comes Nibali leading the charge.
Well, Nibali, Phil, in the turquoise jersey with the Italian flag around his middle, he will do whatever he can to open up the gap on the descent.
About 15 seconds, that was all the gap, but this man's got to take risks on the descent, Valverde.
Well, as we expected, the attacks will come on the downhill part of today's course, but Nairo Quintana will use every opportunity he can between here and Saturday night, I think, to try and challenge Chris Froome all the way up to then. Well, now then, as we go back to the front of the race, Tête de la Course, this is Romain Bardet. He's now on his own. He's managed to put a little bit of time between himself and Anacona. Anacona is a great climber, but Bardet, Phil, won on these very roads we're going through this afternoon in the Criterium de Dauphiné. He won a stage in the Criterium de Dauphiné and finished in 6th place. And look at the way he goes around these corners. He handles these corners extremely well. Gets his knee out like a motorbike rider and tries to lower the centre of gravity as much as possible. Lines himself up perfectly into these corners.
As always, the winner gets a 10-second bonus, but he needs the best part of 3 minutes advantage over the other French rider, Warren Barguil, to go top French rider in the Tour de France, and that's a big honour for the French, as he now shows us how to go down here very, very quickly. It's a long, long descent, this.
He's almost handling this like a skier, Phil. He leans into the corner, then flicks over to the right-hand side, then back again. Chris Froome now is getting challenged on the descent, trying to peer around the corner and see who's going the fastest down that descent, but I would expect it to be Vincenzo Nibali.
Right at the back, joining him on the descent, Michele Scarponi, good teammate, good valued man of Nibali. 2:35, 2:36. They're only about 15 seconds behind, picking up that attack by Alberto Contador. It was the counter-attacks that came that reduced that gap, which was going out to approaching a minute at one stage.
Well, the question is now, where is Alejandro Valverde? Valverde himself an extremely good climber. I'm sure he'll take 1 or 2 risks on the corner here to get himself back into preserve his position on the podium.
This is a very narrow road descent at this section of time. There's a nasty right and left turn on that bend there. Well, they're really now trying to stretch Chris Froome on the way down the Col de Glandon, because Nibali has just really pushed on this descent with the leader, Romain Bardet, first up, and he's first on the way down just now. And he is pushing on. He's looking for a French stage victory, and there's only been one so far, and it was by a teammate of his.
Well, just looking at the way he's handling these corners, Phil, you can see he's confident. You see he's not scared at all going into these corners. He lines himself up perfectly. A little bit further back. This is Caruso.
This is Gianpaolo Caruso here.
In fact, Bardet has just got a 15-second advantage over Anacona, the rider from Movistar, who's chasing him. So,
well, that was Anacona just on in front of Caruso.
So, back with the leader now. So here is Romain Bardet. As we said last year, he was 6th overall. He was very unfortunate to be 6th overall in the Tour de France. He had a flat tyre in the final individual time trial. In fact, he had a real lot of bad luck, and it was because of that flat tyre that he dropped down from 5th to 6th overall. Just looking down at this group, this is the yellow jersey group. Chris Froome. Further forward, that looks like the yellow jersey of the Lotto Jumbo rider. So Froome has got Geraint Thomas with him. Just in front of them in the white jersey is Nairo Quintana. So the one man that trying to ride himself back into this group is Alejandro Valverde. Vincenzo Nibali, well, he's really thrown caution to the wind here. He realises this is a place for him to maybe get a little bit of a time in the overall standings.
Well, Nibali, I hear, has just been caught by the chase group.
In fact,
Nibali's got up to Contador. We haven't got a camera on that at the moment.
Well, they've caught up with Contador, and I think I just spotted from the helicopter shot a few moments ago Robert Hessig as well. This is at the back of the group.
This is the original yellow jersey group, which fragmented, but coming back together on the way down here. It's a very rapid but good descent. There's Valverde. He can now see the group. He's also making the expected good descent.
Well, this guy is a great professional bike rider. He dropped off a little bit, but he knew in the back of his mind that with his descending skills, he could nail back 15 or 20 seconds. Oh, use a bit of the road. Why don't you, Alejandro Valverde? And he uses every little bit of tarmac that he can to garner a fraction of a second here and there to try and pull him back up, himself back up to the yellow jersey group.
This is the man now who has laid down the foundations, but can he build the house as he goes down the Col de Glandon? Romain Bardet, if he wins by 3 minutes over Warren Barguil, he would be the best Frenchman in the Tour. This is the chase group, and there's no one missing from this group now, as it looks as though we've got Nibali on the front. So Contador is back in this bunch. Well, and it looks as though Valverde, 3rd overall, is about to get onto the back of them.
Well, it looks like he's recovered a fraction, but once they get down into the valley, Phil, and it's a very interesting valley, the Valley de Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne, the riders will be picking up a headwind, so that in fact should nullify any of the attacks from this group. And that might also make it a little bit difficult for Romain Bardet at the front, because he's still got about a 15-second advantage over winner Anacona of Movistar.
So now we can see Alejandro Valverde coming back. He is a good descender, there's no question about. I remember this descent from my years. It is one of the nicer descents. I mean, it's always dangerous and fast, but this one has a little bit like less tricky corners. The roads are fairly clean, and you don't risk falling down the cliff on the outside because you're in the forest here. So it's one of the better descents, and you can see it really going fast here. And there's Romain Bardet, 20-second shade, 20-second gap. It might be not enough to have that 20 seconds only before that chasing group behind.
Jens, what sort of speeds are they pushing on down here?
I would say 70 to 75 kilometers an hour. That's something like 50 miles maybe. So yeah, they do go fast.
Well, we're looking at the leader now. He can't go fast enough at the moment, Romain Bardet. This could be his big moment as he pushes on for the descent.
Well, you got a chance there just to have a look at the little map that he had around the stem on his handlebars, and that would be the real idea for him to figure out exactly where he's going to and what he's got in store for the day. He's got still just a 20-second advantage, and this group is actually swelling in numbers on the descent. Alberto Contador made the move. He's also got a teammate in this group, the rider just in front of Gianpaolo. In fact, that's number 66 moving up is Sammy Sanchez. He's changed his shoes for today. He normally wears gold shoes, but he's the best placed rider for BMC now after the abandon just the other day of TJ Van Garderen. Sammy Sanchez is in 13th place overall. And everybody really, this is Malcolm Oliver. He is at 3 minutes and 6 seconds, so he's about 30 seconds back on the yellow jersey group, and all of the riders who have taken a few risks on the descent have managed to get themselves back in. In fact, now he's just at 25 seconds to the yellow jersey group. Here we can see them actually slowing down a fraction.
Valverde now back, sitting on the wheel of Contador, and this is Bauke Mollema, still chasing.
Well, I think, Phil, as Jens Voigt was saying just a little bit earlier on, this is the kind of descent, if you're a good descenter, you can really enjoy it. They're sweeping bends, the bends that you hardly have to touch the brakes at all. It's almost as if you're having a real good ski downhill.
This used to be my
Romain Bardet giving the French every reason to cheer in the Alps today. He's a very entertaining young rider. He's only 24 years of age. Got his stage win in this area to Pralou in the Dauphiné in June of this year. More importantly, last year he showed us how good he could ride in the Tour de France. Now he's recovered from his bad beginning, and he really has become a prospect here.
Yeah, well, it's funny, we had a chance to talk to him before the start of the Tour de France. In fact, on the eve of the individual time trial in Utrecht, he spent some time to have a chat with us. He said, not like some of the other youngsters on his team, what he tries to do when he comes to the Tour de France is, in fact, read real books, not electronic or digital books. He likes to take a bunch of books with him. He went to a bookshop before the start of the Tour de France to get himself some books that would take him away from the Tour and to embed himself and concentrate on the race in hand.
It's very difficult for the riders of the Tour de France. They race every day, but what do you do with the downtime? And everybody has their own answer to that. But he really is descending superbly here at the moment. Watching Leopold Koenig here at the back again now. He's come back.
Yeah, well, that'll give a little bit of inspiration, I think, to Chris Froome in the yellow jersey. The fact that they've got a few more riders in this group. Just looking over his shoulder, Warren Barguil. He's now back in the yellow jersey group. As I said, he was the best Frenchman at the start of the day, but there's a little bit of a battle going on there between Barguil and Romain Bardet. But for me, I don't think Bardet is really concerned about his position in the overall standings. I think more importantly for Romain Bardet, it's a question of trying to win himself a mountain stage. There's Rodriguez coming back in the polka dot jersey.
Yes, I really didn't think the peloton would see him, and I bet they're a bit surprised too. Bardet, who took the points second up the won the Col de London, he's moved him into second place. He's only 5 points behind Rodriguez, and they can't take the lead today, but he can get very, very close if he takes the last points of the day. On the second category climb, he'd go equal with Rodriguez with 68 points.
November 2016 cycling home.
Assuming Rodriguez didn't score at all, which is unlikely now.
Fully lit up. All high-vis equipment and stuff like that.
So they still continue. This is
very, very
Tanon
visible.
here, coming up behind
Somebody is driving
Mollema.
down, using his phone.
Bauke Mollema a few moments ago, Phil, was only about 15 to 20 seconds off the back of the yellow jersey group, but as we look at 25 kilometres to go here for Monaco really needs to get in there.
And partially into the bone. So I always have my lower half of the leg surface.
So as they continue, he is inside 25 kilometres to the finish, just one small climb still to come. This This is 2:38 now for the Maillot Jaune. They've been around that time all of the time. There's been so much action going on. As they now pass under 25 kilometres to go. It seemed like 2 minutes plus that, but
It seemed very, very quick. Just sitting on the back here, this is Pierre Roland, and he'll be just hanging and hovering there. I'm not sure whether or not...
that's the remnants of the chase group. There's riders all over the mountain now. This is the Maillot Jaune.
Yep, they're 2 minutes and 40 seconds still behind Romain Bardet. We've done over the last couple of years is immediately the French are dreaming that they've got another Tour de France winner. They haven't had a Tour de France winner for France since 1985, and they're still waiting. But this youngster, they don't put too much pressure on his shoulders. He may well be, with the right choice of the route of the Tour de France, a winner for France in years to come.
Yes, we're still going downhill pretty quickly. A small little hiccup before we get to the line. Does he have a chance of holding them off?
Absolutely, he has a chance, because they're going to hit this little steep climb, and he's a strong climber, so he's going to put in more time into them. And then the second group start to think, oh, if I work, somebody might outsprint me, so then the second group falls apart, and they don't chase him anymore as one team. So yes, definitely, he has a very good chance of making it.
Yeah, the one thing you've not thrown in there, Jens, is the fact that there are a number of French guys in the group behind, and the one thing that always seems to be the tactico when you get to a situation like this, the French always seem to chase down a lone Frenchman when he's got a chance of winning the stage. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I noticed that in my many years as a pro rider. I noticed, yes, there's no harder fight than French against French in the Tour de France. That is actually true.
I have no bikes.
Well, we're having a great ride for your nation of Germany here, with 5 stage wins for them over this year's Tour de France. We saw yesterday with Simon Geschke. We haven't seen Simon in our camera lens all day today. As we're now, Geschke was the bearded man. Now, many of you wrote to us and asked us, is it great to win with a beard when you're suffering so much? And the answer is, I don't really know. But Germany, 18 stage wins in recent years since 2013. They're having a great few years.
Yeah, well, Phil, to put that into perspective, the Germans have won 32% of all of the individual stages in the Tour de France in the last 3 years, and that's counting up to now.
Well, he's got under 20 kilometres to go now. He's going to get all of the cheers as he races towards the last obstacle of the day, which is a mountain. I personally have never seen it. The Tour de France has never raced over it, but we are told it is narrow, 17 corners, and quite dangerous.
Well, this is the next group on the road, 35 seconds. Pierre Roland putting his hand up there. We'll see there the banner indicating 20 kilometres to go, putting their hand up. Theoretically, this is the last point that they've got to take on board liquids before they line up for this final climb of the day. Bardet, as we said, they're riding his 3rd Tour de France. He wore the white jersey for 5 days in 2014, but he lost it to Thibaut Pinot over the last couple of days. Had a couple of bad days, lost a little bit of time. I have to say he was very unlucky in the individual time trial, but here it's 37 seconds the advantage. The yellow jersey group is a long way back at 2 minutes and 50 seconds, and he's now not too far away from starting this fight. It's a nasty climb as well, the final climb of the day, as they start to line themselves up for it.
So it's like a brand new stop.
Andrew Talansky taking on board that final drink, and it's a 3 kilometre climb. It sounds quite easy, really, 3 kilometres when you bear in mind that the previous climb was 21 kilometres. But up towards the top, the last 2 kilometres, it's around about 9% the gradient. Serge Pauwels has done a pretty impressive job on the day too. He's been yo-yoing on and off at the back, and that's the ride from Etienne Quebecer there. We're now into the town of Sainte-Marie-des-Quines. Department number 73, and that's the department of the Savoie.
With a dog.
He doesn't look like a man who's starting to weaken at all. He's still got very good energy in his pedaling style. He's looking up all the time to check out the corners, to check the lay of the land, to see what sort of line he's going to take around it. He knows that on the rise there's this 3 kilometre climb, and he's one of the riders who does have the opportunity, Phil, of knowing the climb, because he raced over it in the Criterium de Dauphiné. And so he will have
So
no
apart from
fear,
my
as many other riders
arms
have
and legs
talked
looking
about
like
this.
chicken,
His gap has now stretched up a few. Well, they're
I
saying
lost,
40 seconds.
40.
Race radio is saying 36 seconds.
Had 18
But still, that
stitches in my
corresponds to around about
Still have
600
half of
metres
my
on this
top
nice
lip
little
missing.
tortuous road here. For the moment,
And
he's
it was-
out of sight and out of mind.
Well, he would also
least
like to
maybe
get onto
maybe
that
longer, I
climb
don't
and
remember
see, give
exactly,
himself
but
a
at least
little bit of
maybe
an advantage
when
over
I
that chase
was
group,
able to reach
which
so
might
close,
yet get itself organised.
I could only
Under 20 kilometres to go
ease
for the
by
group Mayo
drinking
Jour,
through
the
a,
group of Chris Froome here.
drink strong.
They look to have calmed down a bit after the Battle of the Glandon. They're all back together, the leaders of the Tour de France.
This is Bauke
I've got that
Mollema now.
crash, yeah.
Just stop the back. You see the
Would
yellow
be
car in front. That's the
lovely.
neutral service vehicle. So
It's
he'll
more
be
painful
looking
than
at that and
always
saying,
losing
"That's
my
what
leg."
I'm aiming for. I've just got to get."
7
Actually,
years
you just
early.
saw the horn there as well. That's the horn of the car behind him, giving an indication to the drivers in the team car. There's a rider coming up through the convoy. Be aware. Keep an eye on your back
I've got
window.
Jordan Groovy.
Give him a little bit of the adrenaline rush to get through that convoy and rejoin the leaders. He's going to get
I
on
just
not
need
long
my
before he
bike up
starts
the
the
training
climb,
now.
actually.
I'm taking outside.
The leaders are
Because it's a carbon
17
bike.
well, the leader, 17
And if it
kilometres
crashed
from
hard,
the finish here,
I'm not
2:55 to this
confident
group
of
of
the
riders.
structural
Well, Phil, I
integrity
hope he's not
of taking
casting his
outside.
mind back to the finish in
So
Mond.
I'll
He
just
was
leave
in
it
a
in those
situation
now.
where it was well lined
Or
up
maybe
to win
on
the
the
stage
rotation,
into
yeah.
Mond when he was away with
Where
Thibaut
it's,
Pinot, and then
serves
all
the
of a sudden
purpose.
they got caught out by the return of Steve Cummings on that occasion.
So Bauke Mollema
So I
comes
have
back to the
been-
rear of the peloton.
the past
So
year
one
or
of
so,
the favourites who lost
I
time
have
has
been looking
replaced
towards getting a new bike.
himself back in the favourites to receive Rodriguez. There is the climb
For the past
that we are facing. The Tour de France has never climbed it. You can see
maybe
the
a year or
series of
so,
corners. There are 17,
I have had two
and we
bikes in
just
mind.
corkscrew our way up out of the valley and over the top.
With the
That
Chinelli,
is Les Lacets de
pressure.
Montvernier.
Montvernier, thank
It
you.
is a
Or the
magnificent climb.
Phil
It
Australia.
really is picturesque and something that, you know, I think, Phil, if I know you like
I know,
jigsaw
it's,
puzzles, I think you
on
need to
YouTube
make
last
one out of
night.
that.
Very similar
I
pieces
also
all the
think
way
the
up.
Fairlight Trail. It's a steel
It is
bike.
a most interesting climb.
Okay,
This it just
the
comes up. It
Fairlight
takes
Trail.
about 3 kilometres
I've
plus to
just
get up
been
to the top.
awarded
And then
the,
the similar descent, of course,
one of
which could
those
cause
cycling
the problem.
magazines.
Yes,
Bike
it's
of the
very
year for
precarious for
2005,
Romain Bardet.
2006.
A funny little ring you've just might have spotted there over to the right-hand
Which,
side. That is the ring of Maurienne. This is
what
a
do you
big
feel about
valley
that
for the
now?
production of aluminium.
Because
And in
that
fact, there
means,
are
you can put the price
43,000
up.
little pieces of aluminium making that ring to signify all the inhabitants of the Maurienne village.
The French, it seems, think of everything here. 3:11 back to the Froome group. They
manufacturing
won't be racing for the win today. They can expect to do battle on this final climb.
maybe reduce
Romain Bardet is
the-
scurrying under the railway tracks there. This is the group that's trying to reach him. We're going to have a real battle up the Lacets as we start those 17 hairpin bends. It looks like we're about to get onto the climb now. And this man knows the
My
way
next bike
home.
has to be,
Wow, the
steel
way he
bike
went round
anyway.
that
Steel
corner,
bike
Phil,
on
that was
aluminium.
sheer confidence,
I
and
don't
that
want
shows that he
carbon
knows
bike.
how the corner was going to unfold in front of him. Now he's got to
Only
change a
because if I
completely
crash,
different pedalling style now. He was using a big gear on the
then
flat. He was picking up a little bit of
steel bike
headwind
needs me
into the
fixed.
valley road, but now he's got to change to the right to the other end of his gears to get
I
a
have
nice
a couple
low
of
gear
plans
going in,
in the
and
near
we get a
future.
chance a little bit later on to see that
One
magnificent
is to
backdrop,
do
but it
with
really is a beautiful climb
plans
that the
and
Tour
see
de France has
Johnny Luke's,
discovered.
3.4 kilometres. We've just passed the board. We're
All right.
officially on the climb.
And I also want to do a bike ride from Rome to Liverpool.
Now here comes the car. It's Bob Jungels who's going to take him onto the climb at the bottom. It's 3.4
Course,
kilometres
if I
now.
am abroad,
Doesn't take them very high, but he's going to
and
be
I
decisive
touch a
today in
carbon
the
bike,
Tour de France. And
and
this
it
man has been
snaps.
amazing. Off
So
the
there's
back,
a couple
on the
of
front,
£1,000
on the front and off the front. Bob
Jesus.
Jungels of Luxembourg.
Yeah.
This
That's a
is the
long
man
walk
now.
home.
It seems a long, it's 10 days, 10 racing days of the Tour de France. It's a Frenchman won a stage, and it was on this man's team, and that was Alex Wilmeros. Now, can this man do it?
Well, a teammate as well, let's not forget now. This is
Yeah, he's
Pierre,
still
no, this is
fit.
Cyril Gauthier trying to line it up
It
for
could fall
Pierre
out
Roland,
before
who's
we
in
play on
second
the
position. This
Yeadon.
climb, Phil, is 3.4 kilometres long. It's one of the shortest climbs that we've had so far in today's stage of the Tour de France, but maybe one of the most significant. This is always funny when you see the teammate is putting the team leader into difficulty, because Cyril Gauthier is supposed to be leading the sprint here for Pierre Rolland. Pierre Rolland is gasping for breath, can't follow his teammate.
Oh, 3 flags there, Cornwall, Yorkshire and the United Kingdom on the same mast as we look now at this amazing picture of this new climb in the Tour de France.
Yeah, I just mentioned a little bit earlier, Phil, it took 6 years to build this. Around about 1928 they started. It was to link the valley of the Arc to the village of Montvernier, which is just about on the summit of this climb. Jungels is looking for the move here. He realises he's got to make the junction across here. 39 seconds. Cyril Gauthier in second position in that dark green jersey is doing a phenomenal job, and trying to ride himself back into the race a little bit further back there is Winner Anacona. What a great name for a professional bike rider, Winner.
And don't underestimate him. He had a brilliant welter. He's a really good bike rider and excellent in the mountains. He's in his first Tour de France now, and so too is Bob Jungels. This man's in his third Tour de France, and he's always had a great GC standing at the end. 6th last year. And look at this now, Bob Jungels has warmed up to this. He's getting the hang of this race into the 3rd week.
Well, he's got 17 chances to get the hang of the corners, that's for sure. As you look at these corners, I don't think I've ever seen a road like this anywhere else in a professional bike race. It really is quite amazing how they managed to compact 3 kilometres into about 400 metres.
And Bardet on this narrow road is just climbing. You see now why they've barricaded off and stopped all cars coming up this road, but they said you can go up if you're on a bicycle. And Romain Bardet, he qualifies.
Well, he certainly does. He's got a number on his bicycle as well today, and a transponder. Bob Jungels is doing a phenomenal job, but he's not eating into the advantage of the lone leader for the moment. Romain Bardet now. Jungels is joined there by Gauthier, Pierre Rolland, Winner Anacona. Anacona, they've got about a kilometre and a half to go to the summit. Coming around the corner there is Jakob Fuglsang in the turquoise jersey of Team Astana. And Serge Pauwels is still surviving. Back further down the slopes, it's time now to see whether the yellow jersey group are really going to hit this climb hard.
Well, the Platz is at the back, the winner down in gap, and what a big moment that was for 156, but he's on the back of that group now. Looks like Plata is unhitching here now, paying for his efforts into gap. The day before we had a rest day. Valverde still in this group. This is Rafael Maica, last year's King of the Mountains and double stage winner, looking over to make sure Contador is with him. He is.
Well, that's what his job to do this afternoon. Oh, Phil, this is a fantastic climb, unbelievable.
They found a great viewpoint as we twist our way up here. What a battle this Tour de France. Everybody, every day, throws everything into the ring.
Nice to see a little sign on the road there. I don't know how he managed to get up, because this road is almost clean when it comes to advertising, because there we noticed Yates you can, but I'm not sure which Yates it was for.
Well, sure, it doesn't matter. But
there was 3 of them on the race.
3 of them on the race. One doesn't ride a bike this time around, but that was the top of the climb there. We're sparring up to it. 17 of these corners take us to the summit. Gauthier doing his best to launch Pierre Rolland, but how much energy has he got left? 37 seconds. It's holding. He's doing a great climb up here, the Frenchman, and he's being pulled like a magnet to Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne. He's going to take
overall in the overall standings at the start of the day, but you see, look at the wind ruffling the grass at the side of the road. It really is making this climb even more difficult.
This has got to be the longest 3.5 kilometres of the Tour de France up this climb here. He's over the top now. It's up the gears and take the risk, and the win will be his. He's 2:41 ahead of the yellow, but only 42 seconds ahead of the chasers. 10 kilometres to go.
By the way, Phil, this is one of those horrendous climbs that I always hated as a professional bike rider, because you reach the top after an incredible effort, then all of a sudden there's no downhill immediately. He's got around about 1.5 kilometres where it actually fluctuates a bit before he starts the descent in earnest, and that will really hurt him after the effort that he's currently made. But he'll get inspiration from the fact that if he gets the information from the team car, he's now stretched it out to 43 seconds. He can slowly start to breathe a little bit more and try and recuperate for the fast descent down into Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne.
Well, there is one little kicker before we start that descent, and it's not very far ahead. It's just short, and then he gets the plunge down to the house. and that is Fulsang, who's gone over in second place with Gauthier third.
But looks like Pierre Roland actually, because Gauthier did a lot of the pacemaking early on. I think he paid for that effort and he's disappeared. Further down the slopes, Robert Hessink is having a great tour. This is a man we saw riding exceptionally well early on this year in the Amgen Tour of California. But look at the flags there, Phil. This is really starting to rip across this group of riders there. The wind is getting very, very strong up towards the top of the climb.
This is the group containing Sanchez here, Rafael Maika, Mauka Bollimer didn't want to be here, just second from the end, and Barguil also here.
They're just off the back of the yellow jersey group, and that is the yellow jersey group, the men who are all in the top positions in the overall standings. Robert Hessink is a rider on the front from Lotto Jumbo, followed by Geraint Thomas, followed by the yellow jersey. They've tried to unhitch Chris Froome here this afternoon, but I think they'll have to lay it all down now until tomorrow. But who knows, Phil, you know, because Nairo Quintana is looking for any opportunity.
Nibali followed by Valverde as they try to counter the move coming up towards the summit. Chris Froome just puts his head down and lifts up the cadence in yellow.
What about Matthias Frank, though, sitting on the back there, 181. He was in the long breakaway yesterday that saw him leap up in the overall standings to snitch inside of the top 10. And Vincenzo Nibali, he's 7th overall currently, but he's looking for every opportunity to try and pop himself inside of the top 5. He's not prized open the gap there, but he's put a lot of riders into difficulty, including his own teammate there, number 7, Scarponi.
But this is why he did the work, to try and pave the way for Nibali. But Nibali is making no ground at all. As always, the yellow jersey just marks everybody. He's hanging there. He's got it under control.
Well, Froome just left a little bit of daylight between himself and everybody else there, and he's struggling just to get onto the back.
A show of defiance which won absolutely nothing for anybody as they now start the descent to the finish.
They're under
the 10 kilometres to go now, and Bollimer here, back in trouble. But Warren Barguil is also there, and Sanchez. They've got to catch up again, and they've been doing this on every climb. Barguil's not too happy with Bauke Mollema, but hey, he's been yo-yoing all day off the back.
But every one of these riders, Phil, is, as they say in cycling jargon, on the rivet. This is Romain Bardet.
Bardet is trying to get the dash down towards the finish now as they split up here. This is the chase group we're looking at as we're seeing a move by Pierre Roland on this little last rise before we drop down to the finish.
Well, Roland went over the top of the last climb in 3rd position. He sees this as a last gasp blow, a last gasp effort to try and get himself the stage victory this afternoon. He knows, though, that he's got to try and ride across a gap of 45 seconds.
We're on the dizzy descent now with 7.4 kilometres to go, and of all the men to take on this descent, Romain Bardet, not only being French, but he descends like he can really descend. He's pulled out, Paul, nearly 1 minute. Well, this is Pierre Roland, and he's sort of in no man's land just now. He's going to be joined, I think, by the others.
Well, he's using a monstrous gear here. You can see how slowly the pedaling cadence is there, ejecting the bottle. It's like trying to throw out the sandbags when you're going up in a hot air balloon, trying to get yourself as light as possible to get some more altitude. What he's looking for is more speed. It's a question here, Phil, I'd have to say, of bridge to engine room, a little bit more power, but can he find enough power to get across the gap? Froome is not looking quite that comfortable here, but he's still in contact. Let's not forget, and there's only about 7.5 kilometres to go.
Never looks comfortable. He's just fine. You can tell by his face he's happy. He's got it under control. He knows now he's on the run into the finish. 6 kilometres to go, and he hasn't lost anything of his 3 minutes 10 seconds. And he's watched all of his riders attack again and go literally nowhere.
Well, everybody's thrown caution to the wind in this group, but I think they're also running out of a little bit of firepower and the ability to attack. Scarponi comes up there on the left-hand side in the turquoise jersey, talking to Nibali. Wow, around that corner he uses every little bit of tarmac.
And it quickly accelerates and gets back into it again. He's going to win this race, I think, but this man's going to have other ideas. 2 Frenchmen running towards Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne. little bit of history in the Tour de France this year.
But Phil, at 5.8 kilometres to go, he's got to try and knock off 10 seconds with every kilometre if he's going to make the junction. And he looks as if he's using a monstrous gear, whereas every time we go to Bardet at the front, he's floating around those corners. He's notched off a little second there, but he's got to notch it off a lot quicker than that if he wants to catch the lone leader.
10 seconds is his gain so far on the descent. Maybe he can do it and make the uphill sprint a little bit more exciting, but I think this is Bob Youngles. He's been a ride of the day, that man from the youngster from Luxembourg, the way he's come and gone. So as Roland keeps going around these corners, he's taking chances on these bends.
Well, he's taking a few risks, and the fact is, Phil, that once you make a little bit of a bad manoeuvre, go around a corner, you lose your nerve a fraction. That could be an advantage for Romain Bardet, who just seems to be so smooth going around these corners. And as we go back, you can just see, watch the way he lines himself up here. He's looking around the corner, leads it in. Look at the knee going out there again. That's just to lower the centre of gravity a fraction. Moves across it, and he's looking at every line here. Moves across on the apex of the corner. He's not losing anything at all around the corner. And you see how much quicker he's going around those corners than our motorbike. The motorbike can't lean itself down enough to get around the corners as quickly as Bardet.
I don't blame our cameraman there. He's got a very precarious job to try and keep this rider in his sights at the moment. And you can see now he's riding down the centre line. He's inside 5 kilometres to go. He's using the whole road here as far as he can. Bardet is a man on a mission now. He wants to get France's second stage win of the Tour and move himself up overall as well. He is at 4 kilometres to go. The kite, 1 kilometre to go. And the chase now is for Pierre Roland. What can be better than a French victory? A French 1-2.
Well, it's a long way to the line for Pierre Roland. It's going to be a good 30 to 35 seconds when he crosses the line. He was dreaming of victory, to go to a victory on the slopes of the Alpe d'Huez, but it just goes to prove once again, Phil, he's riding into form towards the end of the Tour de France, but more importantly, what sort of gap is he going to get over everybody else?
Well, he might well improve he should improve his overall positioning from 14th to at least 13th place. Now Bob Youngles being taken on by Anacona here. Serge Pauwels is tucked in behind. It's been a great coming of age too for this first time in the Tour de France. He's another 15 years of attempting to win the Tour, and he'd be happy with this. He may have to give second best to winner Anacona. With a name like Winner, how could you possibly lose the sprint? Winner Anacona goes over there, best of the rest.
Ahead of Youngles and Fulsang, and then coming across Serge Pauwels getting another position.
Well, don't forget the yellow jersey is still down there, but he's completely surrounded by the men that matter. This rider, though, could become the top French rider tonight. It depends when Warren Barguil comes home, but no doubt he's won the stage and the second French victory of this year's Tour de France. And it's taken 10 racing days to repeat what they did in the Mur de Bretagne. Again, has had a comparatively easy day watching them move.
Yeah, but it's the eve of 2 very, very difficult days, as it's Matthias Frank of IAM Cycling who brings them up into the final few hectometers. Well, just looking at the gap as they come around the corner, it might be very, very close between Romain Bardet and Warren Barguil, because Warren Barguil is just sitting on the back of this group in the black and white jersey of Giant Alpecin, as Robert Hessing really is riding a fantastic event here. He's had a great day, the Dutchman, as he leads them into the finish line. I don't think anybody will challenge too much here, as Alejandro Valverde seems quite comfortably to be sitting there in 3rd place. Well, having said that, Barguil makes the move around on the left-hand side to lead them home ahead of Robert Hessing and Chris Froome, Geraint Thomas, and all of the other leaders in the overall stand very close together. There should be no change overall. Sami Sanchez coming around the corner there with Bauke Mollema. And Bauke Mollema, I think, should really have been able to hold on and defend his position. He had a good buffer over Warren Barguil at the start of today. So here's confirmation. France getting that victory at 1-2 for France as well. Actually, Bardet and Pierre Roland at 33 seconds. Winner Anacona 3rd at 59.
stage 19 of the Tour de France as the peloton prepares for another alpine battle. Chris Froome conceded yesterday that the climb of the Col de Glandon was tough. Could that slightest of concessions be the catalyst for a barrage of attacks from Nairo Quintana? Stage 19, and it's a short stage at 138 kilometres, but that will only increase the intensity. The Category 1 climb straight out of the start at Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne. A little bit of respite through the Valley Road and the intermediate sprint. It's then on to the Col de Croix-de-Fer, quickly followed by the Col de Mollard, and then to the finish line at La Toussière. The Vultures glide over the top as they also glide behind Chris Froome, aiming to take away that 3-minute and 10-second advantage. The leaders of the various classifications, as is the tradition, they stand at the start, at the front of the peloton, ready to roll out. We're just about set for the flag to drop. There'll be 5 minutes in the neutral zone before the second flag then comes in from the lead car, driven by the race director, Christian Prudhomme. And that's when the racing will really commence. An enormous amount of support for Peter Sagan in the green jersey, likewise the white jersey for Nairo Quintana. The Colombians have come in huge numbers to this year's Tour de France, and Quintana is giving them hope that just perhaps he might become the first Colombian to win the race. He's one of just 2 Colombians to have finished in the top 3 of the Tour de France. Fabio Parra, great Colombian climber from the 80s, the other man to do so back in 1988. For Nairo Quintana, he was second behind Chris Froome in 2013. Rodriguez, he's clearly made the King of the Mountains jersey his objective. Yesterday, he faded on the climb of the Col de Glandon. He said he simply forgot to eat. Not the sort of thing you expect from a man of such experience, 36 years of age. The final 10-second countdown. They roll out the neutral zone, stage 19. The second last big battle. It's Alpe d'Huez tomorrow, it's La Toussière today. And whatever the conversation was between Sagan and Rodriguez, it brought a smile to the face of the race leader. Chris Froome looks relaxed, and well he might. 161 riders remaining in the race. We had a couple of abandonments yesterday, Mark Renshaw amongst them. This compares to last year. Last year at the finish in Paris, there was 164 riders. So we're already below the mark from 2014, and we've still got 2 very tough days to come. Galli Scarponi just sneaking through the picture from Astana. I wonder what we'll see from Vincenzo Nibali today. And immediately we're seeing the peloton split up under the pressure. Unsurprising, there was a lot of pressure on.
At least 5 minutes behind me.
Probably worth mentioning the tweet from Thomas de Gent this morning. Who is interested for the Group Preto today? Contact Marcel Seberg for tickets. You can also have a group discount. So he made it pretty clear how the day is probably going to unfold for him. Arnaud Demar at the back, the French sprinter from FDJ. Meanwhile, his teammate Alexander Geniez is pressing away at the front for FDJ. Had a good Giro d'Italia this year, Geniez, finishing inside the top 10.
I was unable to.
Bigger action now coming. Sitting in 3rd position, the man who started it all, Brice Filou. Looked as if Alejandro Valverde was also trying to sneak into the action. Do enjoy these shorter stages. Means it is full gas from start to finish. Michael at the back, and it's not comfortable. Arnaud Demar, former under-23 world champion. That was in Denmark that he won that title. The same year that Mark Cavendish won the elite title. Rodriguez goes, and Mahawi responds again. The rider sitting in 2nd position, Now, Howard Kudos, when he went to the UCI Cycling Centre, their World Cycling Centre in Switzerland, which is where Chris Froome came through when he was registered as a Kenyan cyclist, all the data coming out on Kudos is that this guy is a potential top 5 finisher at the Tour de France. Let's hope he fulfills that potential. This is the race for the King of the Mountains jersey. Points up for grabs, a Category 1 climb. As Jean-Christophe Perrault, extraordinary. He is bouncing back and he returns. He no longer looks mummified. He's still got a lot of bandages on, but he continues to fight on bravely. 32 degrees. It is hot at the start. It's warm at the finish. Filou paying the price. This is Louis Vestre going through for Astana. Chenya's next in line for FDJ. Looks like it could be Platzer once again for the Lamprey team. Not the normal terrain for Louis Vestre, although he has been on the podium at Paris-Nice. He finished in second place in 2012 when Bradley Wiggins took the title. Cannot praise the man sitting in second position enough. Always easy to spot the peloton because he's got one red shoe, one blue shoe. But this is Jean-Christophe Perrault, second overall last year. On the stage to Rodez, it looked as if he was going to be on his way home. And a couple of days ago, he even said then, I'm not sure why I'm continuing. The suffering is just too much. Every bump hurts. I can feel it rattling through my body. Well, this is why Jean-Christophe Perrault has continued to show himself at the front once again. He has said that this may well be his last ever Tour de France. And Peter Sagan also trying to poke his way into the picture. Christian Corrin, the rider from the Cannondale team, as we saw yesterday, had 3 riders in the breakaway, Talansky, Hagedal and Van Martin. Andrew Talansky yesterday in 9th position, the day before he finished in 2nd place. And as always with the football, he has declared he will continue to fight. And AG2R Le Mondial, they've been the only French team, or the only team with French riders to win stages this year, as they've had stage wins with Villemos and yesterday with Bardet. They've now got Perrault on the charge and joined by Christophe Riblon. Christophe Riblon now trying to come across as well. This is Brice Filou, the man who started it. The reaction in the green colours, that's Dan Martin. Emmanuel Buchmann, the German national champion, trying to go across. Movistar also infiltrating the early breakaways. It's Mallory is the rider of the Movistar colours, the Italian individual time trial champion. So he's got plenty of horsepower. Hasn't got the climbing legs. Such an aggressive start to the stage as we expected. Another short stage tomorrow, so we can anticipate equal sort of aggression at the start of the stage. Mallory wearing the yellow helmet for Movistar. They are the leaders of the team's classification. It's not the team's classification that they want. We've got a 36-minute advantage over MTM Quebecer, who sit in 2nd position. Movistar, they don't want a yellow helmet. They want a yellow jersey for Nairo Quintana. Buchmann on debut, the young German national champion. The Chaussee is their first climb of today, but this was the final climb of yesterday. Wasn't it stunning? Montvernier introduced to the Tour de France yesterday, and it won't be the last time. It's the kind of climb that the weekend warrior dreams about. You just want to do it on your own. You don't want to do it under race circumstances. But what a beautiful climb it was. Michael Rogers now for Tinkoff Saxo. Alberto Contador wants to go out with a bang. himself has said that it would take a big mistake from Alejandro Valverde for Contador to stand a chance to move up to third place overall. As the gap between those two riders is 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Contador, I suggest that this move is a result of him wanting to look for a stage victory. So he's putting Michael Rogers into the early move. Dan Martin tacks on at the back. Here comes the peloton. Richie Port at the front, the black colours of Team Sky. Talansky once again. Is it Talansky now? And Volker Mollema is the rider from Trek Factory Racing. Volker Mollema, he had a tough day yesterday. Dutchman, team leader for Trek Factory Racing. He sits in 9th position overall, 12 minutes and 6 seconds behind. Carrara is here for Movistar. Difficult to get organised. Rodriguez with a teammate, which is good news for him. So he will go to the front and start to up the tempo. Talansky and Ports, they get along together pretty well actually, Richie Port and Andrew Talansky. They locked horns at Paris-Nice 2 years ago when Richie Port went out the winner. There's a great deal of respect between the two of them, but both of them are those kind of guys that don't take a backward step. Like the two animals on the coat of arms for Australia, the emu and the kangaroo. There's no going backwards, it's only forwards with these two guys. Cyril Goutier attacks now for Europe car. The man behind him is Pierre Roland. Second on the stage yesterday, Pierre Roland. When the race came to La Crucière in 2012, it was Roland who won the stage from a breakaway. He did a great job at yesterday, Cyril Goutier, in support of Pierre Roland. And Roland is also on target perhaps to claw his way inside the top 10 if things work out well. He's currently in 13th position overall. Lasada now at the front for Katusha. And in fact, the rider from the Kendall Garmin team is Dylan Van Baal, which has come as a surprise to me. He jumped the gun and declared that it was Christian Corren. It's not, it's Van Baal, the Dutchman, the specialist for the flatlands. Talansky now finds a little bit of freedom. He's opened up the slightest of gaps. This is Scarponi from Astana. Port now marking the moves heavily. Brilliant racing. Pierre Roland trying to put the disappointment of yesterday's second place finish behind him. In fact, he said it's more than disappointing. And he declared he made the wrong decision with his tactics. And Daniel Tekla-Hamanot now trying. We've seen a bit of Mahawi Kudos early in the stage. It's now the taller of the two Eritreans that is moving off the front. What an occasion for African cycling. What an occasion for the Eritreans. For the first time, Eritrea with starters at the Tour de France. Two of them, Tekla-Hamanot and Kudos, and they've both had an impact on the race. It's been a joy to watch. Sada at the front, with former teammate Platzer also in there for Lamprey. This is Talansky. Well, Andrew Talansky, after yesterday's stage, with the emotions raw, he said, we're not racing to defend 12, 13, 15, or even 11. Top 10, well, I was aiming for top 5. Here to try and win a stage. And win a stage is exactly what he is now trying to do. He's had a second place finish. He was in the breakaway yesterday, finished in 9th spot on the stage. Incidentally, Andrew Talansky sits in 12th position overall at 15 minutes and 18 seconds behind. So there are 15 riders up the road. 35 seconds is the gap from the Team Sky-led peloton with Richie Port on the front through to the leading group of 10 with then 5 chasers. As for riders for the yellow jersey Chris Froome to be concerned about, there's no real threats. The best placed rider overall who is going forward of the peloton is Andrew Talansky, who's in the second group. He's in 12th position at 15 minutes and 18 seconds down. This group has now been declared as a Rodriguez group, and understandably so. Peter Sagan. Caught and passed. This is Talansky, Tekla Hamanont, Scarponi, Roland, Gutierrez, the two riders in the dark green colours from Europcar. And the Cofidis colours under a fair bit of pressure. You can see the rattling and rolling. That was Danny Navarro. Danny Navarro is a good climber. Stage winner last year at the Tour of Spain. Former chief lieutenant for Alberto Contador. Good to see number 188 in the move. This is Pantano, Colombian climber from IM Cycling. 3 stage wins for number 75. He's 4th, perhaps comes in Paris, but he's got a big task ahead of him before he gets there, and that is the task of surviving these mountains. Sebastian Chavanel was the rider behind him, the brother of Sylvain Chavanel, part of the big lead-out train for Arnaud Demar at this year's Tour de France, the sprinter on the FDJ team. And 26 riders have broken away clear of the peloton. 42 seconds the gap. 2 riders in that leading group from Astana, Scarponi and Vestra. Great to see Jean-Christophe Perrault in the move. Herrera is up the road for Movistar, and the man in the white jersey, Nano Quintana, has declared he is going to attack. He is true to his word. And 3 riders in the group from Europcar. In addition to Gutierrez and Pierre Roland, who we've seen a bit of, the official race radio is announcing that Roman Sekar is also in there. Number 71, the team leader for Lotto Soudal, that is Tony Galopin. Rodriguez is assessing the situation, doing a roll call. The group's too big. Kruijswijk doesn't like it. He goes forward on his own. Good climber, Steven Kruijswijk. Been putting a solid performance, the Lotto NL Jumbo squad.
Right, from the back of the pack in race direction number 2. It was expected, a lot of us have been dropped as soon as the first kilometre over this stage. Riders like Arnaud Demar or Tyler Farrar, and they will certainly struggle. It's going to be really tough to finish on time on this stage and remain on the Tour de France. Only 138 kilometres of riding, and it will be a battle all the way to the finish line for the sprinters of the Tour de France.
Ports, Thomas, Roach. Next in line is Leo Koenig, followed by Luke Rowe. The tactic you would suggest for Team Sky at this point, given the composition of the breakaway, will be just to let them go up the road a little bit, keep as many of their riders intact as possible over the top of this climb, because then they head through the valley, the intermediate sprint, and they want to save their main climbers through that period and let Luke Rowe, for example, do the work throughout the valley road. And then it's onto the Col de Glandon into the Col de Croix-de-Fer, which is when Koenig, Wout Poels and Port will take over.
Can I get a 28-minute finish?
Rodriguez,
29 minutes,
with 2 teammates joining him in the breakaway. This is Caruso now, who's at the front, one of the Italians on the Russian squad. Roman Sekar it is, who sits in 2nd position from the Europcar team. Rogers. Not exactly camouflage, is it? The colours of Tinkoff Saxo this year, despite the fact they declared it camouflage. This is Steve Cummings, followed by Rigoberto Urán. Peric Kimener is the next rider to try and go across from Europcar. And this is catching the attention of Team Sky ever so slightly. They don't want to let too many riders go forward, particularly riders from Movistar. Well, the weather has played a role in this year's tour, mainly through the heat as opposed to the rain. The biggest impact the rain has had was really on stage 2 to Zeeland, which seems like such a long time ago. It was Andre Greipel who won the stage then, and Fabian Cancellara moved into yellow as Tony Martin just missed out. The leaders slowly starting to build up their advantage. And it looks miserable at this point. Kruijswijk now going through to the front. They made a lot of sacrifices yesterday, the Lotto NL Jumbo team, to support Robert Hessink in his bid for a top 10 finish overall, in fact a top 5 finish overall. And he's within striking distance of the top 5, Robert Hessink. Today though, they have put a rider in the break. The main rider for them that's been flying the flag in the breakaway so far has been Wilco Kelderman. Today, it's Kruijswijk. He's strong-willed, Steven Kruijswijk. He was prepared to go toe-to-toe in the media with Fabian Cancellara at the Tour de Suisse 3 years ago when he was only a second-year professional. So against Fabian Cancellara, Spartacus, the man with a reputation of being very strong-willed himself in his home tour, and Kruijswijk took him on. Extraordinary weather conditions. It is warm here at the finish line. Most of the spectators are in shorts, t-shirts, and many of them in singlets trying to stay cool. Cloud cover though, it is starting to roll in here at La Toussière. Dylan van Baarle sitting in second spot. A young Dutchman on debut at the Tour de France.
Okay, I'm not
Michael
sure
Rogers
how
behind him.
far behind the PR
And seeing Michael Rogers in this breakaway, it's a clear message that Alberto Contador is not going to go away quietly. He has said that in order for Valverde not to finish on the podium, it would take a big mistake. Did say that Alberto Contador wouldn't go away quietly. Well, he is now going on the charge. Port responds. They are former teammates. There's not a lot of love lost between the two of them either, I might add. In 2013, when Chris Froome won the Tour for the first time, Richie Porte was seen at one point along the road having a conversation with Rodriguez and Valverde, indicating that he thought perhaps Alberto was vulnerable. So there could be a chance for those guys on the podium.
Okay.
And it is an abrupt reaction from Richie Porte, and it's not necessary really, you would suspect, given where Alberto Contador sits overall at 6 minutes and 40 seconds behind. But he has caught the attention of Alejandro Valverde, and this is dangerous. Valverde does need to be contained. Now, Alejandro Valverde at 4 minutes and 9 seconds behind Chris Froome. Overnight, Chris Froome has said he only needs to watch 2 riders, Valverde and Quintana. No matter what you say about Alberto Contador, he delivers entertainment. He can be the hero and the villain all in one. Geraint Thomas is now coming across from Team Sky. Tactically, this is good by Team Sky. This is Christophe Riblon from the earlier breakaway now being caught. Short stages, 138 kilometre stage.
What the hell?
They are much better to watch as pure entertainment, the long drawn-out arm wrestle of a 200-kilometre stage through the mountains. Riblon, he's won at Alpe d'Huez. We head there tomorrow.
How the hell did that happen?
And Geraint Thomas has brought it all under control. Alejandro Valverde, he looked a little vulnerable yesterday. This is Wilco Kelderman. He's had a tough tour, Wilco Kelderman. He crashed on the opening day in Utrecht, of all places, racing on home soil. Warren Barguil is the next to go.
Analyse this.
Here goes the young Frenchman from Brittany, racing for a top 10 finish, and the man that responds is Bauke Mollema, who's in 9th position overall. They played a game of tactics, those two men, yesterday. Robert Hessink now comes through, 6th position in the general classification. Valverde into the slipstream. Barguil on debut at the Tour. He's been a top 10 finish at the Volta a España. A stage winner there as well. Here comes Mollema. And Kessing, two Dutchmen, they're racing for a couple of prizes. Bragging rights at least, as who can be the best placed Dutchman overall. Mollema yesterday played the game of the yo-yo, and Barguil after the stage said that he was playing with him a little bit because he knew that it was Mollema and Bardet further up the road that he had to race with for a spot inside the top 10. As now the defending champion, he's not defending his title any longer. He's now racing for pride. And Vincenzo Nibali, 7th position overall, 8 minutes and 4 seconds behind. And if the rain is going to please anybody, it is Vincenzo Nibali. Because Vincenzo Nibali, in the rain on the descent, his bike handling skills are an even bigger advantage. But for all that's been discussed in the past about Chris Froome and his bike handling perhaps being his Achilles heel, I think it's fair to say that at this year's Tour de France, he has put that firmly to rest. On the stage across the pavé, it was Froome right at the front, attacking just as much as Vincenzo Nibali. And then on that stage to prelude with that treacherous final descent, well, he marked Vincenzo Nibali all the way down and had no problems whatsoever. The Spanish connection, Contador and Valverde. And a long day of containment for Team Sky. They've got a little bit of time to play with. More than 6 minutes to Contador, just over 4 minutes to Valverde. Well, some people were suggesting that perhaps Movistar today would be a little defensive because of what's at stake with potentially 2 spots on the podium. There are big bonuses for finishing on the podium in the Tour de France, as much as from 200,000 euros up to 500,000 euros. And at the moment, Alejandro Valverde holds down 3rd position. So do they risk Alejandro Valverde in 3rd place personally, the riders within the team, and sharing in those bonuses in pursuit of the yellow jersey Fernando Quintana? Looks like they will. This is Scarponi, Nibali, Gutiérrez. So the Italian national champion has made it across to the front, but the gap is only 15 seconds. Kruijswijk, here the broad shoulders from Lotto and El Jumbo. Now Quintana, he's made it pretty clear, he feels good and he's still got the will to win. In fact, he has an enormous desire to win. Now the words of the Colombian climber. Says having Alejandro Valverde close by is crucial to his ambitions. Herrera is in this group from Movistar. There he is just on the right-hand side of the screen. Sitting on the wheel of Steven Kruijswijk. This is Scarponi at the front, a former winner of the Giro d'Italia. A good man to have for Vincenzo Nibali. It looks like Team Sky about to reel this large group back in, still consisting of 25 riders. Sagan suffering through the mountains. He's got 15 second place finishes on stages at the Tour de France. That's throughout his career, 5 of them this year. Simon Yates at the back of that little group, losing contact. That was Jose Serpa from the Lamprey squad as we work our way through to cross off the riders who have been dropped. This is Anacona, who was 3rd on the stage yesterday. The South African national champion also losing contact, Van Rensburg. This is Fulsang, the Luxembourger, who was in that move yesterday, finishing in 4th place. Now going off the back is Izagirre from Movistar. Swiss national champion. Marcel Weiss from BMC also losing ground. This group now going into survival mode. Number 73, Thomas de Gent. He was the one who announced this morning that Marcel Seeberg is selling tickets for the Gruppetto. Daniel Oss and Caruso, the 2 Italians from BMC. And the big figure of Navadauskas.
Up to us, I only want to do the
This is Castro Vejo. Adam Yates. We've already seen Simon. So the twins will get themselves together shortly. Christophe Riblon, who was in the first move of the day. But number 66 is bigger news. This is Samuel Sanchez. Starting the day in 15th position overall. He has been a winner of the King of the Mountains classification here in the past and a podium finisher overall. A third place finish for Sanchez a few years ago. Scarponi and Nibali, Astana. Strong words from Alexander Vinokurov a week ago for Vincenzo Nibali. The Italian saying that Vino just wants to motivate him. They're trying to smooth over the waters, in public at least. I wonder what it's like behind closed doors. I'm not sure it's quite so harmonious. We'll see if we can peer back down the road and get a glimpse of the Sky Squad leading the peloton. There's no longer any official time check coming through on the official race computer. Well, here we go. We can see for ourselves. Froome still with 3 teammates perched in front of him. Not much left of what was considered to be the main peloton. Talansky, Valverde, Pierre Roland knows the roads well. He won here in 2012. And it was on this day to La Toussière where Chris Froome attacked the yellow jersey of his teammate Bradley Wiggins. Sean Yates got on race radio pretty quickly to call him back. Steve Cummins, the rider with the jersey completely unzipped from NTM Quebecer, creating history for the South African team on the Stage du Monde.
Right, so the video's all screwed up.
And this looks like Wout Poels, the Dutchman at the front for Team Sky. Richie Porte appears to have lost contact. Richie Porte has said that he's not in the condition that he was at the start of the Giro d'Italia, which was his big target for this season. He was the #1 man.
What a start to the race. Bear in mind that so far we've covered the massive distance of 24 kilometres. That means we're still looking at 120 kilometres to go to the finish. There's a lot of race